The surrounding executives looked at each other in confusion, some lowered their heads to avoid looking, some had Adam's apple rolling, and thin cold sweat broke out on their foreheads. Chu Tian's deputies snickered lowly, and the conference room was filled with the smell of gunpowder smoke that seemed to be a sure victory. Lu Ting sat at the main seat, tapping the rim of the wine glass with his slender fingers. The amber whiskey in the glass reflected his stern profile. Those ink eyes were as dark as an abyss, and the low air pressure emanating from his body made the air seem to freeze. Seeing that he was silent, Chu Tian smiled even more arrogantly. Lu Ting, your title of iron-blooded emperor is probably going to fade today. The business world is not a concert hall, and playing romance won't work. Neon lights pierced the night of City A like sharp swords. In the conference room on the top floor of the Tinghong Group headquarters building, the air was as stagnant as the sea before a storm. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the hustle and bustle of the imperial capital seemed to be cut off, leaving only the deep breathing and the rustling of documents in the room. Chu Tian, the young boss of business rival Hengyuan Group, leaned back in his chair with a sinister smile on his lips. His fingers tapped on the mahogany table, and his voice was as harsh as a drum. Mr. Lu, are you afraid that Tinghong will fail in this bid? For that piece of land in the core of the imperial city, our Hengyuan bid beat yours. I heard that your internal capital chain is a bit tight. Lu Ting stood up, his tall figure casting a long shadow. He approached step by step, and the sound of his leather shoes hitting the marble floor was like a death bell. Chu Tian took half a step back, sweat pouring down his forehead, and his legs were so weak that he almost knelt down. The surrounding executives gasped, and someone murmured, Mr. Lu, is he directly taking over Hengyuan's home? Oh my God, Emperor Ting's intelligence network is so unpredictable. Lu Ting stopped in front of Chu Tian, leaned over and whispered, his breath as hot as fire, get out of here, from now on, Hengyuan won't be able to breathe in City A. Chu Tian staggered back, knocked over his chair, and fled in panic. The whispers from the bodyguards outside the door came like a flood. Mr. Lu is too cruel, he can cut off people's roots with just one move. The emperor of the business world deserves his reputation. There was such silence that you could hear a pin drop. Suddenly, Lu Ting slowly raised his eyes, his voice as low as the cold wind on a winter night. Chu Tian, do you think Hengyuan's offer can suppress me? He tapped the tablet with his finger, and a series of data instantly flashed on the projection screen. Hengyuan's financial loopholes, bribery records, and even underground bank transactions privately controlled by Chu Tian. There was an explosion in the conference room. Chu Tian's deputies turned pale, and the pen in someone's hand fell off and rolled under the table. This is impossible. Chu Tian stood up suddenly, his eyes widened like bells, and his voice trembled like a string blown by the wind. How can you have these? The concert hall is magnificent, with crystal chandeliers pouring down like stars, and the air is filled with the fragrance of high-end perfume and the faint smell of wooden piano boxes. At the VIP table, celebrities from the business world gathered, and someone whispered, I heard that Mr. Lu from Tinghong is also here. He just suppressed Hengyuan's big deal, and Chu Tian's face turned green. Yes, who dares to approach him when he is sitting there? There is an empty circle around him. Lu Ting sat alone in the corner, with his black suit outlining his broad shoulders and narrow waist, his legs crossed, and his aura was like an invisible force field, isolating the surroundings. He closed his eyes to rest, and heard the warm-up low notes of the symphony orchestra in his ears, but suddenly, a piano sound pierced his heart like a silver arrow. In the center of the stage, under the spotlight, a woman in a white dress stood slowly. Su Nuan, her pure and beautiful face flows like moonlight in the light, her long hair is like a waterfall, and her delicate hands are caressing the violin. The first movement of Beethoven's violin concerto broke out. As the strings vibrated, the passionate melody swept the entire audience like a turbulent wave. In the audience, someone suddenly sat upright, eyes widened. This piano sound is like crying, and it goes straight to the heart. The lady next to her covered her mouth and whispered, Genius. She is definitely the goddess of music. The sound of the piano was sometimes low like a murmur of love, sometimes high like a roar of love and hate. Su Nuan closed her eyes and was immersed in it. The swish of the bow strings mixed with the faint scent of pine in the air, making people's breath full of passion. Lu Ting opened his eyes suddenly, his dark eyes locked on the stage. The sound of the piano was like an invisible thread, entwining his heart and tugging at his softness that had been covered in dust for a long time. Su Nuan's figure was graceful in the light, her skirt fluttered like butterfly wings, her innocent face was flushed, and sweat beads slid down her neckline, crystal clear. His heartbeat accelerated, and his chest felt as if he had been hit by a heavy hammer. This woman was throbbing like a wildfire that she had never experienced before. The sound of the piano reached its climax, and the humor of the second movement intertwined with the solemnity of the third movement. The audience held their breath, and some people murmured with tears in their eyes, "It's so shocking." Listening to the sound of the piano for the first time in this life can make people lose their minds. Su Nuan's best friend and manager, clenched her fists at the edge of the backstage, her eyes moist. Nuan, you did it. The whole audience is crazy for you." When the finale ended, the audience burst into thunderous applause. Su Nuan bowed slightly, her cheeks turned red, and the woody fragrance of the piano box hit her nostrils as she breathed. Lu Ting stood up, his tall figure moving like a mountain, and the VIPs around him gave way automatically. Someone shouted, "Mr. Lu is moving. What is he going to do?" He walked straight to the stage, a bouquet of blood-red roses in his hand as dazzling as flames. The security guard wanted to stop him, but when he saw it was him, his legs weakened and he backed away. "Mr. Lu from Tinghuang, who dares to stop him?" Su Nuan raised her eyes and met those deep eyes, and her heart skipped a beat. Lu Ting handed over the rose and said in a magnetic and low voice, "Miss, your piano music has captured my heart. How about leaving your contact information?" The audience gasped. Best friend Su Nuan stared wide-eyed in the audience, covered her mouth and screamed, "Oh my God." Lu Ting personally presented flowers. Nuan, you are so popular." The audience whispered, "A boss-level pursuit. What if Su Nuan refuses? She's blushing like this, she must be in love." Su Nuan's pretty face burned, and she bit her lip, her voice as soft as a mosquito's whine, "Thank you, Mr. Lu, but I have a boyfriend." She hurriedly handed back the business card, turned and left, leaving the rose trembling slightly in her hand. Lu Ting's eyes dimmed, but he curled his lips and smiled. The rejection added fuel to the fire, igniting his unprecedented desire to conquer. People around were stunned. She actually rejected Mr. Lu. How brave she is. But looking at Mr. Lu's eyes, I guess she will chase her to the end of the world. Backstage, Su Nuan was panting against the wall. Su Nuan rushed up and hugged her. "Nuan, are you crazy? That's Lu Ting. The business emperor of City A, the boss of Tinghuang Group, can make Heng Yuan bankrupt with just one sentence. If you reject him, it's like a diamond falling from the sky and you're knocked unconscious without catching it." Su Nuan shook her head, with the magnetic voice echoing in her ears, feeling confused. "Nuan, I'm afraid of being trapped." "Go." Outside the concert hall, Lu Ting got into the Rolls-Royce and called his secretary, "Check her background, everything." The secretary responded and reported half an hour later, "Boss, Su Nuan has a clean background and is talented, but she made a surprising discovery. Her father is Mr. Lu's old comrade and family friend. She will be attending the Lu family dinner next week." After the meeting ended, Lu Ting rubbed his brows, feeling exhausted like a tide. It was dark outside the window, and he glanced at the invitation on the table, a VIP invitation from the Imperial Capital International Concert Hall. In order to cope with the social situation of the family father, he was reluctant, but tonight, he might be able to relax. The black Rolls-Royce was galloping on the neon avenue, and the smell of leather and cologne were intertwined in the car. The driver took a peek from the rearview mirror and sighed in a low voice, "The boss has become more powerful tonight, so Chu Tian will probably vomit 3 liters of blood. The Rolls-Royce was speeding in the night wind, and the light fragrance of cologne in the car was mixed with the moist smell of neon lights outside the window. Lu Ting tapped his fingers on his knees, and the sound of the piano echoed in his mind, lingering like a silver bell. The secretary's voice came from the mobile phone, so respectful that it almost trembled. "Boss, all Su Nuan's information has been sent. There is a gap in the sponsorship for her next concert, and the founder of the concert hall has a headache." Lu Ting's lips slightly raised, and his voice was as cold as a knife. "Okay, Ting Wang Group fully sponsors the next concert at the Imperial Capital International Concert Hall. Conditions: Su Nuan signs a short-term artistic cooperation contract, and I will negotiate in person. See you in the conference room of the concert hall tomorrow morning." Early the next morning, in the dressing room backstage at the Imperial Capital International Concert Hall, the sun shone through the gauze curtains, and the air was filled with the sweet fragrance of powder puffs and the bitterness of coffee. Su Nuan rubbed her temples. The aftertaste of last night's music was still trembling on her fingertips, but she was suffocated by a stack of bills. Su Nuan pushed the door open and walked in with a document in her hand, her face as pale as paper. "Nuan, something bad happened. All the sponsors of the next concert have been withdrawn, and the concert hall said that if the funds are not replenished, your solo performance will be cancelled. Our management fees are almost at the bottom, and your father's medical expenses." Her voice choked, and her fist hit the table with a muffled sound. "Those capitalists are too realistic. Our music dream is going to be ruined like this?" A glint flashed in Lu Ting's eyes, and the corners of his lips curved like a hunter. "Okay, set up a trap. I will make sure she can't escape at next week's dinner." Outside the car window, the night lights of City A were like stars, and his heart was locked forever by the sound of the piano. How would she face him as a hungry wolf at the dinner party? Suddenly there were hurried footsteps outside the door. The director of the concert hall pushed the door open and rushed in. Sweat was pouring from his forehead, and the documents in his hand were shaking like autumn leaves. "Miss Su. Great news. Ting Wang Group is fully sponsoring." "No, only sponsoring your concert. The condition is to sign a short-term artistic cooperation contract, and Mr. Lu will come to negotiate in person." The assistants opened their eyes wide and opened their mouths. "O-shaped," someone screamed. "Emperor Ting. Lu Ting. The boss who presented flowers last night. Impossible. Why did they suddenly throw money at you? Miss Su, you rejected him last night, and he was still so protective." Su Nuan's eyes were as bright as stars, and she grabbed Su Nuan's arm. Nuan, this is a God-given opportunity. Sign it. With the support of Emperor Ting, your music career will be smooth." In the conference room, the long mahogany table reflected the brilliance of the crystal lamp, and the aroma of coffee in the air was overwhelming. Lu Ting has taken the main seat. His black suit is as straight as iron, his legs are crossed, and his aura is like an invisible storm, compressing the surrounding air. The director of the concert hall wiped his sweat and ushered Su Nuan in. Su Nuan was dressed in a simple white dress, her heart beating like a drum. She raised her eyes to meet those abyss-like ink eyes, as if the residual warmth of last night's roses was still in her palms. She wanted to refuse, but she saw Su Nuan winking and urging in a low voice. "Nuan, this is a rare opportunity. Think of your dad." Cold sweat dripped from the director's forehead. "Mr. Lu, this is Miss Su Nuan, a genius violinist." Lu Ting stood up, his tall figure casting a shadow. He walked closer step by step. The sound of his leather shoes tapping on the ground was as oppressive as his heartbeat. Su Nuan took a step back, smelling his unique cologne scent, mixed with the calmness of leather, and her heart was pounding. "Mr. Lu, thank you for the sponsorship, but the contract." Before she could finish her words, Lu Ting pushed the document in front of her, and his voice was low and magnetic. "Sign it. Emperor Ting provides exclusive exercises. Room, top-notch instruments, you can focus on music for a short period of 3 months, I won't interfere." The director's eyes widened and his Adam's apple rolled. Mr. Lu's big deal. This practice room is worth tens of millions. Su Nuan shouted from the side, Nuan, why is he rejecting you? Su Nuan bit her lip, holding the bow tightly with her delicate hands, her knuckles turned white, and her innocent face was pale and bloodless. The assistants around were whispering, and some sighed, Miss Su is so talented, how could something like this happen? Yeah, the performance last night made the whole audience go crazy, and now it's going to be bad, it's so tragic. Su Nuan's heart was like a knife, and the old figure of her father's sickbed flashed in her mind, tears welling up in her eyes. Nuan, I'll go and beg the concert hall manager, even if I kneel down. Su Nuan hugged her, her shoulders trembling. Fool, is kneeling useful? Those people only care about money. In the afternoon of the same day, Ting Huang's exclusive practice room was unveiled. Located on the top floor of the concert hall, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the panoramic view of the imperial capital, and the air is filled with the scent of newly painted wood and the soft scent of soundproof cotton. Su Nuan pushed the door open and was stunned. A Stradivarius violin was displayed on a velvet cushion in the room. The body of the violin was as golden as honey, and the bow hair was as white as flawless. It was worth hundreds of millions. Su Nuan rushed over, her eyes as wide as bells, and her hands shaking so hard that she could barely touch it. Nuan, this is a famous piano handed down from ancient times. President Lu sent it to him personally. Oh my God, how did his intelligence network know that you like this one? The assistants gathered around, whispering, the boss loves you. Miss Su, you have found a treasure. Yes, under the cold appearance of President Lu, is he so attentive? Su Nuan hesitated, the bill and her father's sick appearance flashed in her mind, and she gritted her teeth and signed her name. A hint of success flashed in Lu Ting's eyes, but he said coldly, you think I'm a gold digger? Women are blinded by money. He turned and left, leaving Su Nuan with a pretty face that turned pale. Su Nuan stomped her feet in anger, he misunderstood you. But Nuan, this boss, is kind of cute. Outside the conference room, the director murmured to his assistant, Mr. Lu spends money on a woman. Emperor Ting has never been so generous. Is the business emperor crazy? Outside the door, Lu Ting stood leaning against the wall. His secretary reported in a low voice, Boss, Qin has been flown to Paris personally. He nodded, pushed the door open and went in, his tall figure blocking the light. Su Nuan turned around, the bow trembling slightly in her hand, Mr. Lu, this is too precious, I can't take it away. Lu Ting approached, leaned over and stroked the strings, plucked the strings with his fingertips, and made a crisp low sound, like a lover murmuring, take it. The sound of your piano needs an instrument that is worthy of it. His eyes were deep, and the hot breath from his breath brushed her ears. Su Nuan's cheeks were hot, and her heart was beating like a deer, but she was wary. What on earth do you want to do? Throw me money. In the next few days, the practice room became their daily routine. In the early morning, Lu Ting personally delivered black coffee. The bitter aroma filled the air, and the warmth of his fingers still remained on the rim of the cup. Drink, refresh yourself. Su Nuan took it and smelled the cologne on his sleeves. She felt a little excited, but said harshly, you don't have to worry about it. He was silent and just watched her practice with cold eyes. Occasionally he stood up to adjust the light, and his arm brushed against her shoulder. The electric numbness made Su Nuan's pretty face blush. The assistants were talking in the corridor, and some people stared wide-eyed. Mr. Lu comes here every day. Boss Ting Huang is his own sparring partner. Yes, he is as ruthless as a wolf to outsiders, but he is so gentle to Miss Su. The contrast is so cute. Lu Ting curled his lips and smiled, with a contrasting gentleness like the spring breeze blowing on his face. Practice, I'll watch over you. He sat on the sofa in the corner, crossed his arms across his chest, and his stern face softened a bit in the sunset. Su Nuan had no choice but to pull the bow, and the sound of the piano flowed, passionate yet tender. Lu Ting closed his eyes and listened, nodding occasionally. Here, add more force. His advice was as precise as a knife. After Su Nuan finished playing the song, she was panting, and the sweat from her forehead slid down her neckline, crystal clear and alluring. Su Nuan peeked through the crack in the door and whispered excitedly, "Nuan Nuan, the way he looks at you is like a hungry wolf looking at a sheep. But he's so manly." The sun was setting and traffic was flowing outside the practice room window. Lu Ting suddenly stood up and handed over a gold-plated invitation. "Next week, the Lu family dinner is a family dinner. Your father is Mr. Lu's old comrade. You should attend. Come with me." Su Nuan was stunned. The words, "Miss Su Nuan personally," on the letter were dazzling, and her heartbeat stopped. Her father's old affairs were exposed. She bit her lip and hesitated. "Mr. Lu, I am not suitable." Lu Ting approached, his breath hot. "Don't go. The contract is invalid, the concert is cancelled, and your father's medical expenses will be paid for by himself." His tyranny was overwhelming, but there was a trace of pleading hidden in his eyes. The contrast made Su Nuan confused. Su Nuan eavesdropped outside the door and clenched her fists excitedly. "Nuan Nuan, go. The rich dinner is so sweet." One afternoon, Su Nuan sneaked into the practice room, dragged Su Nuan to the corner, and whispered in a low voice, "Nuan Nuan, I dug up Lu Ting's black history. I heard that when he was in college, he spent money to build a music club to chase the school belle, but the school belle ran away, and he has never been close to him. You're a womanizer now, haha, you deserve it." Su Nuan smiled, thinking about young Lu Ting, and felt fond of him. "He has a weakness." Lu Ting heard the sound of the piano from outside, his lips raised slightly, and his eyes were as fond as honey. Su Nuan clenched the gilded invitation with her fingers. The edges of the paper were wet with sweat. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the golden body of the Stradivarius violin, reflecting a dazzling light. In the practice room, the lingering fragrance of coffee still lingered on the tip of her nose, and Lu Ting's body temperature seemed to linger in the air. She was confused and said, "Mr. Lu, I'll think about it." His eyes were dark, and the sound of leather shoes was heard. Before turning and leaving, he left. "Next Friday at 7 o'clock, the Lu family's old house. Don't make me wait." The door slammed shut, and Su Nuan rushed in, her eyes as wide as bells. "Nuan Nuan, why are you hesitating? Let's go and book the rich dinner." Su Nuan bit her lips, her father's sickbed figure intertwined with the sound of the piano in her mind, and she finally lowered her head. "Okay, I'll go." A week passed in a blink of an eye, night fell in the imperial capital, and the Lu family's old residence was brightly lit like a palace. The crystal chandeliers are as bright as the stars, reflecting the white marble floor of the hall. The air is filled with the rich aroma of stewed chicken with matsutake mushrooms, mixed with the mellowness of aged red wine. On both sides of the long table, the elders and family friends of the Lu family were seated. The velvet chair cushions were so soft that people were trapped in them. The silver tableware clinked against each other, and there was a lot of laughter. Su Nuan wore a light blue cheongsam, which outlined her slender waist and long legs. Her bun was as elegant as orchid, but her heart was beating like a drum. She followed Lu Ting into the hall. Lu Ting's black suit was stiff, and he gently held her waist with his hands. His palms were as hot as a soldering iron, making her face blush slightly. The surrounding servants lowered their heads and retreated, but their eyes were furtively peeking, and whispers broke out, "Who is this lady? Lu Ting personally takes the female companion. I have never seen it before. TSK, you have a fairy-like temperament, worthy of young Master Ting Huang." Lu Ting led her to sit at the main table. As soon as she sat down, Mr. Lu, who had gray hair but eyes like an eagle, came over with a wine glass. "Tinger, who is this?" Lu Ting's lips raised slightly, and his voice was low and magnetic. "Master, Su Nuan. My voice is concert partner." As soon as he finished speaking, Mr. Lu's pupils shrank, his wine glass smashed on the table, and the red wine spilled like blood. Su Nuan, Lao Su's daughter. There was a dead silence in the audience, and the elders' eyes were wide open. Bell, someone's Adam's apple rolled, oh my God. That girl, Comrade Lao Su. When we were on the battlefield, Lao Su saved my life, and his daughter is so beautiful. Another fat uncle stood up and slapped the table, his fat trembling, ha ha ha. Tinger, you're so hidden. If I had known she was Lao Su's daughter, we would have matched her. Su Nuan turned pale with embarrassment, pinched her fingertips into her palms, and thought in her mind, Lu Ting knew her identity, and set up a trap on purpose. As the accompanying agent, Su Nuan sat at a side table with her mouth open in an O shape, and the shark fin soup in her hand was all over the table. Nuan Nuan, your dad is Mr. Lu's old comrade in arms. This melon is too big. The servants passed by carrying dishes, staggering. Someone he whispered, Boss Ba has a premeditated plan. Concert sponsorship, famous piano, all paving the way. Su Nuan's heart was as sharp as a knife. She stood up and wanted to run away, but Lu Ting's big hand grabbed her wrist, and it was as strong as an iron pincer that could not break free. Sit down. His breath brushed his neck. The smell of cologne was strong and oppressive. She whispered and trembled, Lu Ting, you knew earlier. Sponsorship, practice room, all the game. The elders at the table stared at the show. Mr. Lu stroked his beard and laughed, girl, if Tinger had known earlier, how could he use music? Can you give flowers? I can see that the old man only has eyes for you. The fat uncle echoed, his voice was as rough as thunder, yes. Tinger has been hard-hearted since he was a kid, and now he's killing hundreds of people for you. How cute is that? The embarrassment of the dinner escalated. The elders were so enthusiastic that they all talked about it. Girl Su, sit next to Tinger. Old Su has a spirit in the sky, and I would like to see you. Su Nuan was forced to move her seat, and her knees touched Lu Ting's iron legs, and her heart beat wildly. The steaming lobster was served on the table. The shell was as red as fire and the shrimp fragrance was as fragrant as the shrimp. Lu Ting took one of the shelled lobsters and the meat was fresh and elastic, and handed it directly to her lips. Open your mouth. Su Nuan blushed like a boiled shrimp. She refused but was suppressed by his eyes. The elders around laughed loudly. Oh, Tinger fed. This kid used to wet the bed when he was a child, and now he dotes on his wife. Mr. Lu broke the news with a loud voice, Tinger. When I was 5 years old, I secretly picked roses from my neighbor's house and gave them to the girl. As a result, I pricked my hands and cried. I never touched flowers again, until the night of the concert. The whole audience burst into laughter, and the fat uncle pounded the table. Haha, the iron-blooded emperor also has children. Years of history. Su Yadu, take him in. Su Nuan sneered, her vigilance melted a little, and she bit into the shrimp meat, and the sweet juice burst out, mixing with the residual warmth of his fingertips, causing ripples in her heart. Lu Ting's eyes were as loving as honey, but in contrast he was cold and reserved only for outsiders. He turned around and glanced at the servant. The dishes are cold, please serve again. The servant was so frightened that his legs were weak and he was sweating like rain. He rushed to the kitchen. Yes, Mr. Lu. Su Nuan's eyes shone at the table next to her, and she pulled her assistant to whisper, Nuan Nuan is so pampered. The elders look at each other, wishing they could have a wedding tomorrow. The awkward atmosphere was reversed, and the red wine flowed freely. As they drank, the candlelight flickered and illuminated Su Nuan's blushing cheeks. Lu Ting whispered in a low voice, it's not a setup. That night at the concert, the sound of your piano broke into my heart. Love at first sight, pure. His breath was hot, brushing his earlobes like electricity. Su Nuan's heartbeat was like a deer's beating, and the Stradivarius strings were humming in his head, and the misunderstanding disappeared. The climax was like a volcano erupting. At the end of the meal, the dessert pudding was served, rich and creamy. Lu Ting suddenly stood up, his tall figure cast a shadow, and the whole place was silent. He held the wine glass, and his voice was sonorous. "Elders, Su Nuan is Lao Su's daughter, and she is my woman. Tonight, I openly pursue her. When the 3-month contract expires, I want her to stay with me forever." The words fell like thunder, and the elders widened their eyes and applauded thunderously. "Okay." Tinger finally opened his mouth. "Yes." Girl Su nod. The fat uncle beat his chest excitedly. "The emperor of the business world bows his head, this scene is rare." Su Nuan's face was as hot as fire, with the smell of coffee, the sound of piano, and her heartbeat symphony in her head. She bowed her head shyly. "Well." A soft promise was heard like a silver bell, and the whole audience burst into cheers. Mr. Lu's eyes were filled with tears. "Old Su, your daughter has found a treasure." Su Nuan squeezed the invitation tightly with her fingers, the aroma of coffee intertwined with his body temperature in her breath, and the sound of piano in her head symphonized with her heartbeat. Go, or reject this hungry wolf. At the dinner party, the family's eyes were on her. How should she handle herself? Su Nuan rushed over to hug Su Nuan and screamed, "Nuan Nuan, get a rich wife." The contrast between Lu Ting's doting and doting is so sweet. The servants whispered, their eyes were as adoring as stars. "Young Master Lu is open about his love. Will Emperor Ting have many weaknesses from now on?" Lu Ting took Su Nuan's hand, clasped their fingers tightly, and pressed his lips to her ear. "Go home, I will personally send you to practice." Her heart trembled, and the fragrance of his cologne and red wine blended in her breath, as sweet as honey. The night wind was like a knife, cutting through the neon lights in the parking lot, and the engine of Lu Ting's Bentley roared like a beast waking up. He took Su Nuan into the passenger seat with a big hand, and wrapped his iron arm around her waist. The heat in his palm penetrated the silk of the cheongsam and burned into her skin. Su Nuan's heart was still beating, and the aroma of the dinner's red wine and the sweetness of lobster were still lingering on the tip of her nose. She raised her eyes and caught a glimpse of Chu Tian's snake-like eyes in the shadows, and a chill ran down her spine. Lu Ting, that person. His eyes were as frosty as he glanced over. Chu Tian's figure seemed to have been pierced by an invisible sharp blade. His face turned pale and he staggered back. The Bentley's taillights flashed blood red and he walked away. The air in the car was stagnant. Su Nuan's fingertips trembled slightly and she clenched the Stradivarius case tightly. He stared at me as if he wanted to eat someone. Lu Ting's lips curled up coldly. He controlled the steering wheel with one hand and put the other hand on her knee. Chu Tian. Hengyuan's Kenju. If he dares to touch a hair of yours, I will make him unable to turn over forever. His voice was as low as the bells of hell, and Su Nuan's heart was slightly uneasy. This man was as sweet as honey, but as ruthless as Shura. Early the next morning, the imperial capital was shrouded in mist. Outside the International Concert Hall, a black Bentley parked like an imperial chariot. Su Nuan had just walked down the stairs of the practice room, her footsteps still carrying the lingering remnants of last night's sweet dream. A Rolls-Royce Phantom had already slid up like a ghost. Lu Ting pushed the door open and walked out. His black suit was as straight as a sword, and his tie buckle shone like a diamond. He walked straight forward, and the musicians passing by him paused in their steps, their eyes widened as if they had seen a miracle. "Oh my God! Mr. Lu from the Tinghuang group is here to pick someone up again. Are the rumors about yesterday's dinner true?" A young piano boy spilled the music in his hand and stammered. He opened the door in person. "That fairy musician has found a rich son-in-law." Su Nuan's pretty face turned red. The piano case, it was still warm, so he took it, stretched his legs, and hugged her into the car. "Get in the car. After rehearsal, I will take you somewhere." The smell of his cologne hit her nose, mixed with the fresh morning dew. Su Nuan's heart beat faster, and she sat down obediently. "I pick her up every day, aren't you busy?" He started the engine, and smiled indulgently on his lips. "If you are busy, you also want to pick up my woman. So every day, for a week." The streets of the imperial capital are busy with traffic, and Bentley appears at the door of the concert hall on time like a pendulum every day. On the first day Su Nuan witnessed it, her mouth became like a full moon, and she dragged her assistant to poke at her phone. Nuan, this treatment. Emperor Ting drives him personally, picks him up in a luxury car. My bestie, I'm so sad. The assistant's eyes straightened, and she swallowed her saliva. Sister Su, look at the looks in the eyes of passers-by, I admire you to death. Now. Mr. Lu is fierce to the outside world, but now he has turned into a chauffeur and a doting wife. In the rehearsal room, when Su Nuan was playing the piano, he would always be seen outside the window, tall as a mountain, and occasionally he would open the door and come in, holding a cup of hot Blue Mountain coffee, and the aroma would fill the strings. Her fingers were flying, and the sound of the piano was like crying and complaining. He stood leaning against the door, with soft light in his eyes pouring down like a river of stars. Servants passing by with tea would always peek and whisper, young Master Lu's eyes melt steel. Who believes that this is the murderous god of the business world? It was as sweet as honey, but on this afternoon, it shattered like shards of glass. The coffee shop is hidden on the top floor of the Imperial City CBD. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, there are tall buildings like a forest of swords and a sea of clouds. Lu Ting brewed Blue Mountain himself, the grinder buzzed, the coffee beans were rich and fragrant, and when the hot water was poured in, the golden foam bloomed like flowers. He brought the cup, the rim of the cup was filled with steam, and passed it directly to her lips. Taste it. My craftsmanship. Su Nuan took a sip, the bitterness was sweet, the tip of her tongue was mellow, and her eyes were bright. It tastes good, sweeter than the ones in the store. He sat close and touched her legs with his knees. The world is for you. His breath tickled his cheeks, and the fragrance of cologne and coffee blended together. Su Nuan's face was flushed, and her heart was full of emotions. I believe it. I have believed it since last night. She shared her music dream, her voice as soft as cotton. I want to be on the international stage, and the Imperial Capital Music Festival is just the beginning. Before my father was sick, he always said that music can heal the soul. I want to use the sound of the piano to help him recover. Lu Ting's eyes were deep and he covered her delicate hand with his big hand. Tell me what support you need. I will spend money and resources, and I will give it all to you. Su Nuan's heart trembled, she leaned into his shoulder, the tip of her nose rubbed the fabric of the suit, and her heart moved softly. You are enough. The waiters around Xingduanpan passed by, his steps empty, and whispered, Mr. Lu makes the coffee himself. The boss of Tinghuang Group, his craftsmanship is comparable to Michelin. That girl is so happy. The sweetness was thick. Lu Ting's phone buzzed, he glanced at it, and his face suddenly changed like frost. On the screen, Yuan Group's financial vulnerability data flashed. His fingers were flying, and he replied to the email. His voice was as cold as an ice blade, block all cooperation. Yuan stock will be crushed when it opens tomorrow. On the other end of the phone, the executive's voice trembled like chaff. Yes, Mr. Lu. We have used the intelligence network, and within 3 hours, Chu Tian's entire chain collapsed. Su Nuan took a peek and saw that his eyebrows were like knives, his eyes were full of murderous intent, and his spine felt chilly. This man loved her like water, but treated his enemies like fire from hell. Her fingertips trembled slightly, and the revelations from the restaurant seniors flashed in her mind. Shopping malls kill people without blinking an eye. The gap was like a chasm. She lowered her head and bit her lip. Lu Ting, your world is too cold. I'm just a musician, I'm afraid I'm not worthy. If you want to rise, you must first suppress it. The air is as stagnant as ice. Lu Ting noticed it, put down the phone, clasped her chin with his big palm, and forced her eyes to look up. Not worthy? Woman, you are my weakness and my world. His lips pressed down and plundered domineeringly, the tip of his tongue rolled up the coffee residue, and the kiss made her mind go blank and her knees weak. The surrounding waiters' plates fell to the ground, broken porcelain crunched, and their eyes widened like copper bells. Oh my God. Mr. Lu kissed, in public. The contrast is so sweet. A female white-collar worker passed by, dropped her cell phone on the table, and screamed and whispered, Ting Huang's kissing skills are so domineering. I'm so jealous of that fairy. After the kiss, he wiped the coffee stains from the corners of her lips, his voice magnetic and low. Worried? From now on, I will expand your world tenfold. I have received the VIP invitation to the Imperial Capital International Concert Hall. I will reserve the venue for the music festival next month, so that the whole world can hear your music. Su Nuan's heartbeat was like a deer, and tears were shining in her eyes. Really? He nodded, took her hand, and clasped their fingers together. Let's go for a walk. Let you see my imperial capital. As we walked out of the coffee shop hand in hand, the neon lights of the imperial city CBD came on, and there was a huge crowd. Su Nuan suddenly jumped out, holding a hot dog in her hand, her mouth full, and screamed vaguely, Nuan Nuan. I just read the gossip, Mr. Lu makes coffee himself. My best friend, I'll help. Her eyes glowed, and she poked Lu Ting's arm. Brother Ting, stop your cold face, and be more pampering to Nuan Nuan. I heard about the music dream, and I will help promote the MV on the set, I promise. Hot. The assistant followed, carrying the shopping bag, and whispered in admiration, Brother Lu is so fierce. I have never seen Emperor Ting lower his head in this circle. Lu Ting's lips curled up, and he said with rare condescension. 3 people stood side by side, with Su Nuan in the middle being protected like a treasure, and the night breeze brought the fragrance of osmanthus. Passers-by turned around frequently, and the girls screamed, is that the music goddess Su Nuan? Next to you is Lu Ting. A match made in heaven. The boys' Adam's apple rolled, Ting Huang holds hands, crying with envy. We are still chasing the school beauty, but he already loves the goddess. There was so much sweetness, but at the end of the walk holding hands, things went crazy. The mobile phones were buzzing, and Su Nuan was the first to explode, Nuan Nuan. The #1 hot search, Su Nuan is hyping up the scandal, the music goddess sugar daddy takes over. Su Nuan's pretty face turned pale, she clicked on Weibo, and the photos were like knives, flowers at concerts, holding hands at dinners, and kisses in cafes, all distorted by photoshopped pictures, with sinister captions, genius violinist relies on his body in exchange for sponsorship. The short-term contract with Ting Huang Group is actually a sponsorship. Comments. The forum exploded, fake innocence. No wonder the billionaire Qin was smashed. Wealthy toy, musical dream. Laughing to death. Media reporters were like wolves, scurrying out of the street corner, flashlights dazzling like heavy rain, microphones piercing their faces. Miss Su. Are you sure you want to exchange resources with Lu Ting? Inside the dinner, tell me about old comrade Su. Su Nuan's legs weakened and backed away, his heart was like a knife, and the sound of the piano in his head was broken. Is the dream ruined? Lu Ting's eyes turned cold, his tall body stood in front of him, and his aura was like a mountain collapse. Get lost. His voice exploded like thunder. The reporters staggered, their faces turned pale, and someone dropped his cell phone. Lu, Mr. Lu, please spare your life. Su Nuan leaned on her back and cursed, who gave the information? That scum Chu Tian. Lu Ting hugged Su Nuan tightly, breathing peacefully. He caressed her and trembled, don't be afraid. My woman, who dares to cheat? He waved his finger, and his assistant had dialed the public relations, suppressed the hot search, sue for spreading rumors. Delete the post on the entire network, and investigate the source. The reporters retreated like a tide, and passers-by stared in wide eyes, whispering in admiration, the Emperor Ting protects his wife, he is invincible. This scandal has turned out to be proof of his sweet love. Outside the hall, the night breeze rustled, and the guests dispersed. Su Nuan leaned on Lu Ting's arm, her steps empty. Suddenly, a cold gaze struck him. He turned around and saw that in the shadows of the parking lot, Chu Tian was leaning on the black Bentley, his face ashen, a sinister smile on his lips, staring at Su Nuan like a poisonous snake and spitting out a message, "Lu Ting, the fun has just begun." His fingers clenched the phone, and the broken financial statements of Yuan Group flashed on the screen, with hatred in his eyes. The Bentley engine roared like a beast traveling at night, and the neon lights of the Imperial City CBD flowed outside the window like blood. Lu Ting's big hands covered Su Nuan's knees, and the heat from his palms penetrated into her skin through the silk dress, dispelling the remaining chill from the hot search in her heart. Su Nuan leaned on his shoulder, the tip of her nose rubbing against the smell of cologne on his suit, mixed with the scent of osmanthus carried by the night wind. Her tears were not yet dry but had turned into dependence. "Lu Ting, those photos will ruin my music dream." The corner of his lips curled up coldly, and he controlled it with one hand. The air in the car was warm, and the Bluetooth speaker suddenly played her violin recording. The sound of the violin was like crying and complaining, lingering around the aftertaste of the hot search storm. He lowered his head to kiss her forehead, and whispered in her ears, "Go to sleep. When we get home, I will carry you in." Su Nuan's eyelids were heavy, and her heart was slightly agitated. Bentley cut through the night and went straight to the Hentang villa. When the doormen saw the car lights flashing red, they all stood at attention and whispered in shock, "Mr. Lu brought the ferry back to the house again. Hot search to protect his wife, this is true love." In the early morning of the next day, the heat wave was rolling on the Imperial Capital studio, the spotlight was like a scorching sun burning the air, and the smell of sweat mixed with the fragrance of makeup powder hit your nostrils. Su Nuan is wearing a white gauze skirt, with a Stradivari violin leaning on her shoulder, and the bowstrings flying. The MV camera captures her fingertips like butterflies, and the sound of the piano pouring out like the overturning of the Milky Way. After the hot search storm, this was a live broadcast of the doubt-clearing meeting. The director shouted, "Ka! Miss Su, a stroke of genius." The staff applauded wildly, eyes bright, "Goddess of music, what are hot searches?" The whole world knelt down when they heard this sound. Su Nuan jumped in front of the monitor next to her. Holding a cup of coffee and poking at the phone, "Nuan, hot searches have been suppressed to the end. Mr. Lu's public relations are as fierce as a tiger, Chu Tian is a scumbag, the stock is crashing." The assistant wiped his sweat and agreed with a trembling voice, "Sister Su, look at the barrage, wife-protecting mad demon Ting Huang has flooded the screen. The number of fans has skyrocketed by 100,000. The sweet warmth is still there, but it is like broken glass." In the middle of the doubt-clearing meeting, the backstage area of the studio was bustling with people, the coffee machine was humming, and the heat was filling the air. Su Nuan had just taken off her makeup and wiped the sweat from the strings, when a shadow slid closer like a poisonous snake. Chu Tian, his suit was wrinkled and his face was as pale as paper, but he forced a smile, holding a bouquet of blood-red roses in his hand. The pungent floral fragrance rushed straight into his nose. "Miss Su, long time no see. At the concert, your piano sound made me unforgettable." He came closer, his eyes were like wolves, and his voice was sticky. "I am Chu Tian, from Yuan Group. We had a relationship when we were at the Imperial Conservatory of Music. I sponsored the tuition for your performance of Butterfly Lovers, didn't I?" Su Nuan frowned and hugged the piano tightly, feeling slightly uneasy. "Mr. Chu. I'm sorry, I don't remember." The assistants around him whispered, their eyes widening, "Master Yuan, you dare to come to the set when the stock price crashes?" Chu Tian refused to retreat, and Rose forced her hand, which hurt. "Fingertips, don't believe that Lu Ting. He plays with women like changing clothes." His ex, Lin Wei, the former secretary of Yuan Group, cried and begged me to invest when he dumped him. I searched those photos, and I have the inside story. He was never serious, he only played around with his music dream for a short-term contract. Su Nuanxin's lake suddenly froze, and blood dripped from the rose thorns on her skirt. Lu Ting's cold and hot-searched Shura face flashed back in his mind, and he recalled the shopping mall killer who was revealed by the restaurant manager. The fingertips trembled and the bow almost slipped. "You are talking nonsense." He said it was love at first sight. Chu Tian smiled sinisterly and whispered into his ear, his breath smelling hot, "Love? Ting Huang Intelligence Network, I found out last night. Your father's medical expenses, he spent money just to sleep with you. Lin Wei has photos, so intimate that they are in bed, I can send them to you." The staff on the set paused and whispered, "Young Master Chu is crazy. Are you provoking the goddess of music in public? This is to crush the Emperor Ting." Su Nuan's face turned pale, and she stepped back and bumped into the prop box. The sound of the piano broke in her head like tears of despair. "It's impossible." He brewed the coffee himself and booked the music festival. Chu Tian's eyes flashed with poison. "Coffee? It's just a bed trick. Sign the 3-month contract, otherwise the music dream will be shattered." The air was as stagnant as a tomb. Su Nuan's legs were so weak that she was about to kneel, and her vision was blurred by tears. Photographers around her raised their mobile phones, and the barrage exploded. "Oh my God. Chu Tian Black Su Nuan. Old acquaintance. This plot has been reversed." Su Nuan rushed over after hearing the news, pulled Chu Tian away, screamed and cursed, "Get the hell out of here. Don't listen to Nuan Nuan, Mr. Lu loves you. Deep in the bones." The assistant's eyes went straight and he swallowed. "Sister Su, Mr. Chu's face, looks like a ghost." He wanted to be strong but then suppressed it. In the abyss of despair, an iron-blooded aura swept over the set like a landslide and a tsunami. The black Bentley brakes screamed, and Lu Ting pushed open the door. His black suit was like armor, and his tie buckle shone in the scorching sun. He strode over to the set, and the whole studio's footsteps were frivolous. The director's microphone rang loudly. "Lu. Mr. Lu is here in person." An imperial edict on the set. The staff stared at the bells and whispered in admiration, "The aura of Ting Huang is so strong that the air is frozen. Chu Tian, he is dead." Lu Ting's eyes were like frost blades, piercing Chu Tian. He held Su Nuan into his arms with one hand, his tall body blocking her like an iron wall, and his breath soothed her trembling. "Who dares to touch you?" Su Nuan burst into tears, and punched his chest with her fist. He said, "You were playing with me, my ex, Lin Wei." Chu Tian's face turned pale, he staggered back, and the rose fell to the ground and was crushed by the flower juice. Blood red, Lu Ting. Your intelligence network has destroyed my Hengyuan." The corner of Lu Ting's lips curled up coldly, and his voice sounded like a bell from hell, causing the loudspeaker on the set to buzz. "Chu Tian, the whole chain collapsed last night, wasn't it enough? If you dare to touch my woman, I will destroy your Hengyuan." With a wave of his finger, his assistant handed over the tablet, and the screen the evidence of Shang Hengyuan's bribery flashed, and the live broadcast was frantic, domineering to protect his wife. Emperor Ting crushed him. Chu Tian's knees softened, and he crawled back on his knees, his voice trembling like chaff. "Mr. Lu, please forgive me. I was wrong." The photographer's flash rained down, and the passing actors screamed, "Master Chu, kneel down." Emperor Ting's words, the empire collapsed. The contrast is amazing." Lu Ting dismissed Su Nuan's chin and forced his eyes to look up. "Believe him? Woman, look at this." He took out the VIP invitation from the Royal Capital International Concert Hall, with a shiny golden edge, and attached it to the Ting Huang Group's permanent sponsorship contract. 3 months. I will destroy your dream forever. Su Nuan leaned in his arms, tears rolling down her face, but she heard him whisper, "Go home. I will clarify it myself and let the whole world know that you are my real goddess." In the night wind, the Bentley engine roared again and drove towards the unknown storm. The shadows in the Chu Tian were like ghosts. Under the lights of the imperial capital, the show was in full swing. The crisis was resolved. In the rest area of the studio, under a green tent, the Blue Mountain coffee was steaming. Lu Ting brewed it with his own hands. The grinder buzzed like a whisper of love, and the golden foam bloomed. He brought the cup, and the hot air from the rim of the cup brushed her lips. Taste it. Relieve the embarrassment. Su Nuan took a sip, the bitterness and sweetness echoed on the tip of her tongue, and her heart melted. It tastes good, just like you. He sat close and touched her legs with his knees. The heat was like electricity. He took out a custom-made piano bow from his arms, and the ivory-carved dragon shone. The bow hair was as flexible as silk, exclusively for Stradivarius. The only one in the world, draw out your empire. Su Nuan touched the bow with her fingers, tears glistening. Lu Ting, thank you. He held her hand, clasped their fingers together, and whispered softly, after the break, continue shooting. I will guard you. Outside the tent, the fan whirled. Su Nuan rushed in, hugged Su Nuan and shook her wildly. Nuan Nuan. I just found out that Chu Tian launched a hot search and hired trolls to hack you. This scumbag is a conspirator. I will ask the studio security to drive him out. The assistant followed, shouting in admiration, Agent Su, Detective Su. Mr. Lu listened to the advice. The Emperor Ting bows his head and dotes on his wife, a legend in the industry. Lu Ting raised his lips and said with rare indulgence, thank you, Miss Su, for the music festival. I will broadcast it globally. Su Nuan leaned on his shoulder, with the bow in her hand, and the light on the set stretched out the shadow, which was romantic and picturesque. The afternoon sun was shining, and the MV shooting resumed. Su Nuan played the piano, the bow strings were flying, and the sound of the new bow and piano resounded throughout the imperial capital like a phoenix rising from the ashes. The director applauded with tears in his eyes. Perfect. The hot search has reversed, and the MV pre-sales exceeded 100 million. The staff whispered, President Lu's gift, it's an artifact. I cried when I heard the sound of the goddess's piano. The sweetness was so intense that Su Nuan's phone buzzed, and an anonymous email popped up. A photo stabbed her heart like a knife. Lu Ting and the mysterious woman Lin Wei, intimate in their arms, lips touching their ears, with the top floor of Tinghong Group in the background, and the timestamp was last week. Her fingertips were cold, the photo was enlarged, the woman's eyes were seductive, the smell of cologne seemed to hit her face, and there were cracks in her heart. What Chu Tian said, is it true? Under the lights of the studio, shadows creep up quietly, and the show is in full swing. The lights on the set were pouring down like torches, and Su Nuan clenched her phone tightly with her fingertips. The photo on the screen was as dazzling as a needle. Lu Ting's iron arms wrapped around Lin Wei's slender waist, his lips close to her ear. Outside the floor-to-ceiling window on the top floor of Tinghong Group, the night view of the imperial capital was as bright as blood. The time stamp was last Friday, only 2 days after the sweet coffee last night. The smell of cologne seemed to seep out of the photo, mixed with the residual warmth of the kiss on the set in her mind, and her heart felt like it had been cut open by a sharp knife, with blood beads oozing out. The bow trembled lightly on her knees, and the ivory dragon scales of the new bow shone in the afternoon sun. She forced a deep breath, and the bitter and sweet Blue Mountain coffee was still on the tip of her tongue, trying to suppress her chest and suffocate. Nuan Nuan. This shot is amazing. Su Nuan rushed into the rest tent, holding the monitor data and jumping wildly, her eyes bright as stars. The pre-sales of the MV exceeded 100 million, and fans cried out, Nirvana of the goddess. Mr. Lu's contract. As soon as the Phnom Penh invitation came out, the Imperial Concert Hall will forever sponsor the Global Live Music Festival, and the circle will explode. The assistant followed behind, holding ice-cold mineral water. The voice trembled with admiration. Brother Su, look at the hot search. Tinghong's beloved wife's magic bow, is #1. That scumbag from Chu Tian, Hun Yuan's stock fell to the 3-board limit. Evidence of bribery is flying everywhere, and investors are swearing. The staff passed by the tent, whispering, the goddess of music found a treasure. Mr. Lu personally made coffee and kissed in public, it's so sweet. Mr. Chu knelt down in disgrace, who dares to be shameful? Su Nuan forced a smile, put away her phone, hugged the Stradivarius case tightly, and ran her fingertips through the custom-made bow hair, which was as soft as silk and slid over her skin. She felt in her heart this short-lived gain. The hot search was reversed, her father's medical expenses were worry-free, and her music dream spread its wings like a phoenix. The new bow tried to play the song, Butterfly Lovers, and the sound of the piano returned to the tent. Su Nuan's eyes were red when she heard it. Nuan Nuan, your voice. Mr. Lu's eyes were straight when he was guarding the set. His aura made the air on the set freeze 3 degrees. The assistant wiped his sweat and agreed with a trembling voice, yes, the moment the Chu Tian rose was crushed, blood splattered everywhere, my legs are weak. With Mr. Lu's words, Hun Yuan's entire chain collapsed and the empire collapsed. The sweet aftertaste lingers like the steam of coffee. Su Nuan leans against the canvas of the tent, the sun shines on her gauze skirt, and the scent of osmanthus floats from the flower bed on the set, trying to repair her mind. Lu Ting's embrace is as ironclad as the promise of an eternal contract that is as hot as fire. After just a moment of repair, the phone vibrated again. Chu Tian's WeChat message popped up, and the avatar smiled sinisterly, Ms. Su, let's perform together. Rehearsing at the Imperial Concert Hall next month and next week. I have sponsored your tuition. As an old friendship, let's sign the contract. Attached is the original photo of Lin Wei, Lu Ting playing with irrefutable evidence. Su Nuan's heart skipped a beat, and the photo was enlarged. Lin Wei's charming eyes were seductive, and her lip shape fit perfectly with Lu Ting's. She bit her lip, and the smell of blood spread. She stood up and pushed open the tent curtain. The fans on the set were roaring and the smell of sweat hit her face. The MV team was finishing up work. The director shouted, perfect ending. Miss Su, see you at the music festival. Lu Ting's figure stood next to the Bentley, as tall as a mountain, and his tie buckle reflected the scorching sun. He waved to his assistant and locked eyes with her, with a cold hook on his lips. Nuan, have you rested enough? I'll charter a plane to pick you up for the music festival rehearsal. Su Nuan hesitated in her steps. The photo burned her heart, and she rushed forward, her voice trembling like a broken bowstring. Lu Ting, what is this? She glared at him with her mobile phone. In front of him, Lin Wei was intimate to the bone, and the night view on the top floor was dazzling. The staff on the set walked hurriedly and whispered, oh my God. The goddess is questioning Mr. Lu. The old relationship is exposed. The assistant's eyes widened and he swallowed. Lin Wei. The former secretary. Emperor Ting has a different relationship. Su Nuan's heart beat like a deer, and tears rolled down the invitation. The smell of cologne on the tip of her nose was mixed with the scent of sweat on the set and the aftertaste of coffee. Really, you don't want to play around? Lu Ting lowered his head and kissed her, domineeringly plundering her. The tip of his tongue rolled up her tears, and the kiss made her brain go blank and her knees weak. The director's plates were smashed to the ground, and the broken porcelain crackled, kissing in public on the set. Mr. Lu's contrast is so cute, so sweet. Su Nuan covered her chest and screamed, Nuan Nuan is so happy. Brother Ting, marry her. The extras' eyes were straight, and they whispered, the goddess of music is picking up treasures. Chu Tian is such a scumbag. Lu Ting's face darkened suddenly, and his temper exploded like a volcano. He flattened the phone case with one hand and the pieces crackled. Believe him or not. Woman, do you still doubt your musical dream that I will smash the whole world? He strode closer, and the high-pressure aura made the tent canvas flutter. The microphones of the directors around him fell to the ground, and his voice trembled. Mr. Lu is angry? The temperature on the set has dropped 10 degrees. Su Nuan rushed to pull Su Nuan, his eyes widened in fear. Nuan Nuan, calm down. Brother Ting has a fierce temper. Lu Ting snorted coldly, turned around and ran back to the Bentley. The engine roared like a beast's rage, and the car's taillights cut blood red into the dust on the set. It's up to you. The music festival will fend for itself. The Bentley braked and screeched away. Su Nuan's legs went weak and he knelt down, tears hitting the piano case, and the blood-red rose thorn marks were still painful. He is gone. Toying with, sure enough. Lu Ting's eyes darkened, he grabbed the phone, swiped it with his thumb, and the smell of cologne aggravated his nostrils. Picture P. The remnants of Chu Tian, the timestamp is forged. He pointed at the Ting intelligence software, and the screen flashed with synthetic traces, and the blue light reflected his livid face. Last Friday, I had a meeting in Hentang. Lin Wei had resigned long ago and left half a year ago. Su Nuan took a step back, her tears blurred, and her voice was as sharp as a piano string. Evidence. Chu Tian said that your ex cried and begged him to invest when he dumped you. And this, last week. When you kissed me, she was waiting on the top floor. The eternal contract fell to the ground. The shadow of the Cold War has not yet dissipated. At dusk the next day, the rehearsal hall of the Imperial Concert Hall was brightly lit, the crystal chandeliers reflected the golden light, and the music of the piano filled the air like a galaxy. Chu Tian was in a neat suit, with a pale face but a sticky smile. He pushed the door open with champagne in his hand, and the pungent aroma of wine hit his nostrils. Ms. Su, we will collaborate with each other on Butterfly Lovers, the finale of the music festival. I, Heng Yuan, will throw all my remaining resources at you. Su Wan stopped her and screamed, go away. The scumbag is searching for a black hand. But Su Nuan was confused. Lu Ting's cold face echoed in his mind, and he nodded, it's just a rehearsal. The music dream can't stop. Chu Tian's eyes flashed with poison, and the assistant whispered in shock, the goddess took the bait. How dare Mr. Chu set up a trap when the stock collapsed? The wine bureau was set up in the lounge of the hall. Red wine poured like blood into the bottom of the cup. Chu Tian urged him to drink, 1 cup, old friendship. Lin Wei. After Lu Ting dumped her, I comforted her. The photo is true. Su Nuan sipped lightly, the spicy wine burned her throat, and Lu Ting's kiss broke in her mind. There was a lot in the bottom of the cup. After drinking 3 more cups, her vision was blurred and her piano bow slipped and made a crisp sound. Chu Tian smiled sinisterly, summoned his younger brother to block the door, for strong men stood like iron towers, the smell of tobacco filled the air. Miss Su, are you drunk? Get in the car, let's talk about the music festival in detail. Su Nuan staggered up, smelling of alcohol, her legs went weak and hit the table, red wine spilled on her skirt with blood stains. You are drunk. The younger brother approached with a sinister smile, and the bones of his fists cracked. Young Master Chu, take it away. Crisis rushed like a pack of wolves, the hall door burst open, and a tsunami of iron-blooded aura swept across. Lu Ting's black suit was like armor, his black eyes boiled with murderous intent. He smashed the wine bottle away with one hand, glass rain shattered and splashed, and the wine splashed on his younger brother's face. The security guard on the set came over after hearing the news, his steps were empty and his eyes widened. Mr. Lu. A hero saves the beauty. Chu Tian's face turned pale, he backed up and bumped into the piano stand, his strings broke and screamed, Lu Ting. Are you still pursuing me in the Cold War? Lu Ting said nothing, and held Su Nuan's waist with his big hand, shouldering it domineeringly. Su Nuan's eyes were blurry with drunkenness, the smell of cologne penetrated the tip of her nose, and the fragrance of mixed wine made her feel at ease. Ting. His knees hit the younger brother's abdomen, and he fell to the ground with a groan. The wind of the fist hit the second person's chin, and the bones cracked. Whoever touches her will die. The third younger brother drew his sword, cold light flashed, Lu Ting dodged and hit his knee, the sword flew to the ground and clinked. The security guard screamed, Ting Huang martial god. 1 versus 4, the smell of blood in the air. Chu Tian's knees weakened and he crawled back, his voice cracking, oh. Heng Yuan is dead. Lu Ting carries Su Nuan out of the hall, the Bentley engine roars, the night wind carries the scent of sweet-scented osmanthus, and the neon blood of the imperial capital flows. He went straight to the private hospital. The blue light in the VIP ward was soft, and the smell of disinfectant was pungent. Su Nuan woke up and vomited. He stayed in bed all night, wiping the corners of her lips with his big palms. His iron face finally cracked, and rare tears flashed in his eyes. Nuan, picture, I'm angry at you, don't believe it. Lin Wei. Get out of here, never been tempted. Love at first sight, the night you played the piano, your soul was captured. His voice was hoarse and trembling, his breath brushed her forehead, and hot tears dripped down the back of her hands, burning her. Su Nuan came over after hearing the news. She peeped outside the door and covered her mouth. Mr. Lu is crying. Emperor's tears. It's so sweet. The nurse widened her eyes and whispered, Ting Huang confesses his love and dotes on his wife at the bedside. It's legendary. There was a flood of ridicule from the side, and the group of actors whispered, a work by a goddess. Emperor Ting is a maniac who protects his wife, and the picture is irrefutable. Chu Tian missed it. The assistant lowered his head to wipe the floor, and trembled, Miss Su, there is a deep misunderstanding. Mr. Lu's eyes are filled with murderous intent. Su Nuan hugged her tightly, the smell of perfume mixed with the salty tears. Nuan, Chu Tian conspiracy. But Mr. Lu's temper, the empire's murderous god, the Cold War. The air was as stagnant as a tomb. Su Nuan wiped her tears and stood up, the cracks in the music dream widened, her fingertips touched the invitation, and the gold edge dimmed. Su Nuan softened, her heart melted, she reached out to hook his neck, her lips touched, the tip of her tongue rolled with tears, the kiss made the hospital bed shake, and the monitor beeped wildly. Lu Ting roared back, plundering domineeringly, and the heat in his palm seeped into the gauze skirt, forever, mine. After the kiss, she leaned into her arms and gasped, trust you. Let's go to the music festival together. Outside the window of the hospital room, the night view of the imperial capital was bright, filled with sweetness like honey, the piano bow was placed on the bedside, and the ivory dragon scales flashed the oath. The blue light in the ward was frozen like frost, the monitor beeped like an intermittent heartbeat, and the pungent smell of disinfectant mixed with the fragrance of wine lingering on Su Nuan's lips. When she opened her eyes, dawn poured in from the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the tall buildings in the imperial capital stood like giant beasts, and the neon afterglow remained blood-red. Panting, Su Nuan burst into the door. The red light on her mobile phone flashed like an alarm. Her face was as white as paper, and her voice was trembling and broken, Mr. Lu. It's over. Anonymous emails exploded all over the internet. Ting Huang's internal secrets were leaked. You are suspected of commercial espionage. Hun Yuan's bribery backfired and the evidence pointed directly at you. The stock movement is red, the business community of the imperial capital is in turmoil, and the investors are in trouble. She flashed her cell phone in front of Lu Ting's eyes, and the screenshot of the email was dazzling. The encrypted document showed signs of forgery, Lu Ting's signature was unmistakable, and Chu Tian's profile picture was placed on top with a sinister smile. Emperor Ting will eventually fall into the mortal world. Lu Ting swept his iron arm, and when he stood up, sawdust cracked on the edge of the bed. He squeezed the phone case tightly with his big palm, and the cracking sound was like breaking bones. His black eyes boiled with murderous intent, and the smell of cologne mixed with anger hit his nose, the remnants of Chu Tian. The public relations team blocked the entire chain. The lawyer team, sue the spreaders. The assistant's voice on the other end of the phone trembled like chaff, Mr. Lu, 50 people have been sent to suppress it. Hot searches, but Ms. Su was implicated in her MV collaboration, and the scandal called her a spy mistress. Fans turned against her. The music festival invitation was hotly searched, and boycott the music bitch ranked first. Su Nuan's heart suddenly froze, and she grabbed the Stradivarius case, and touched the ivory dragon scale bow with her fingertips. It was bone-chilling. Her mobile phone trembled, and her private messages on Weibo were like floods. A goddess has been reduced to a tool for the emperor. The music dream is filled with blood and tears. Lin Wei's photos are not enough, and now she is a spy. Refund tickets and likes. Fans' avatars changed from love hearts to fists, and the data of the MV with pre-sales exceeding 100 million plummeted. The barrage filled the screen with blood red. Get out of the concert hall. Su Nuan sat down with weak legs, her eyes rounded with fear. Nuan, the media is squatting at the entrance of the Imperial Concert Hall, and the paparazzi shouts, Mistress appears. Chu Tian's poisonous move, Yuan was wiped out and came back. Lu Ting's snoring worsened, and he turned around to dial the public relations director. His voice was as cold as a blade, by the entire platform to suppress the scandal. Su Nuan Music Festival, 1 point of sponsorship. But the call was interrupted, and the assistant screamed, Mr. Lu, the exchange is closed for investigation, and Ting Huang's market value has been wiped out by tens of billions. Mr. Lu is bombarded with calls, and the family meeting is urgent. He sternly walked out, the cuffs of his suit were torn, the wind howled, and the Bentley engine beast roared away, leaving the air in the ward as silent as a tomb. Su Nuan's chest was suffocating, her tears smashed against the piano case, and the blood-red rose thorns ached faintly. He is gone. The company is in crisis, and I am a drag. The lights in the hospital corridor were dazzling, and the nurses' whispers were buzzing like bees. The king of Ting has been killed. Miss Su's concert is off, and fans are protesting on the streets. Su Nuan bit her lip and stood up, with wine-stained blood spots still on her gauze skirt. She opened the ward door, and paparazzi flashed as the elevator door opened and closed. Like a torrential downpour, Su Nuan. Spy mistress, Lu Ting is using you to launder money. There is a wave of ticket refunds at the music festival, admit it, the sound of the piano sells you. She hugged the piano case tightly and rushed out of the hall. The flash blinded her vision, the microphone blasted her face and the acrid smell of cigarette smoke hit her. The reporter roared, after Chu Tian exposed Lin Wei's real photo, this email is irrefutable. Emperor Ting has nothing to do, and you can carry it alone. The security guard's empty steps could not stop the crowd. Su Nuan's throat was choked with sobs, and her voice was as broken as a bowstring. Fake, misunderstanding. But the crowd laughed at them. Misunderstanding? Hot search the #1 warm mistress. Lu Ting is busy saving the company and abandoning you like shit. She stumbled and squeezed into the nanny's car. The glass cracked like a broken heart with her fists outside the car window. The driver wiped his sweat and said, Miss Su, the road to the concert hall is blocked. Fans held up signs saying get out of the Imperial City. In front of the Imperial Capital International Concert Hall, dark clouds were pressing down, and the torrential rain was pouring like a wrath from the sky. The rain hit the ground and splashed water mixed with the smell of mud. The protesting crowd waved flags and shouted, resist spies. Get out of here, music bitch. Su Nuan's nanny car was forced to stop, and she held an umbrella under her umbrella. In the car, the piano case was wet and heavy on her shoulders. The media rushed towards her like a pack of wolves. Her face was twisted in the rain. Su Nuan, do you know about Ting Huang's dirty stuff? The music dream is ruined. Su Nuan held an umbrella in front of her and screamed, get out of here. False stuff, a lawyer's letter will be issued soon. But fans the tsunami surged, and paper balls hit her wet cheeks, with bitch and go away written all over them. A girl cried, I pre-sold the MV for 1,000 yuan, and the magic bow turned out to be a spy bow. Give me back the money and lose my youth. Su Nuan's legs were weak and he knelt down, with salty tears mixed with rainwater entering his lips. The bow slipped in the mud, and the ivory dragon scales were dirty. I just want to play the piano. Lu Ting, where is his publicist? Why don't you show up? The reporter laughed sinisterly in the recording. President Lu is commanding remotely, and the Ting Huang headquarters is blocked, but he stands idly by and dotes on his wife. What a joke. The phone buzzed as Lu Ting called, and the background was as noisy as a battlefield. Nuan, the concert hall insists, my PR is doing the hot search, the evidence is being cleared. Chu Tian IP tracking, arrest his whole family. But the disconnection sound was harsh. Su Nuan looked at the sky with tears in her eyes, and the rain hit the umbrella bones. PR. The fans burned the invitations, the music festival is ruined. Your company saves lives, I will bear the media fire pit alone. The crowd whispered in suppressed bursts, look, Mr. Lu is calling to coax, abandon the car. Damn it. The goddess is a laughing stock. Su Nuan hugged her tightly, her perfume diluted by the rain, and her voice was harsh. Nuan, Mr. Lu is fierce in dealing with the business war. But this scene, the hot search live broadcast collapsed. Su Nuan stood up and wiped her face with tears, and pushed the crowd into the hall. The staff in the hall lowered their heads and whispered, it's over, the global live broadcast sponsorship is withdrawn, Miss Su can't come, what a disaster. The crystal lantern in the rehearsal hall was as dim as a broken candle, and the low hum of the piano strings echoed in the empty space. Su Nuan leaned on the piano stand to catch her breath. Early the next morning, an invitation for an out-of-town performance popped up, Yunnan music season, emergency substitute, escaping the storm in the imperial capital. She gritted her teeth and replied, go. Su Nuan widened her eyes to dissuade her, Nuan, Mr. Lu knew it would explode. I'll book the plane ticket. But Su Nuan burst into tears and said, break up. He's in crisis, so I won't cause any trouble. It's a permanent contract, so throw it away. When the message was sent, her fingertips were as cold as death, the cracks in the musical dream widened, and the gold edge of the invitation was torn to pieces and fell to the ground, with confetti falling like snow. In the VIP lounge of the Imperial Capital Airport, Su Nuan dragged her piano case through the security check. The air was as cold as frost. Passengers peeped and whispered, isn't that Mistress Nuan? She knelt down in the concert hall and cried. Lu Ting dumped her. The lights at the boarding gate were dazzling, her steps were frivolous, and her heart was filled with blood. Suddenly, the radio roared, Miss Su Nuan, the VIP channel is open urgently, private jets are on standby. She was startled, and turned around. Lu Ting stood like an iron tower, his tie was crooked and his eyes were bloodshot, his suit was wrinkled like a battle robe, his black eyes were locked on her. The assistant held the document behind him and trembled. Mr. Lu, fought all night, the market value is stable, but the music festival. Lu Ting ignored it, strode towards him, the airport security guards were running around and stared. Emperor Ting kneels down. Emperor's knees. He knelt down. The airport floor tiles were cold and prickly at his knees after the rain. He wrapped his iron arms around her waist. His voice was as hoarse as gravel, Nuan, don't leave. I'll clear up the dirty stuff. Under Chu Tian's arrest order, Emperor Ting will fight to protect your music dream. Passengers screamed and watched, and mobile phone videos flashed, oh my god. President Lu kneels down at the airport. Chasing his wife at the crematorium live broadcast. The girl fan wiped away tears, turns out true love. I wrongly blamed the goddess. Su Nuan burst into tears, and her heart ached like a broken bow. You have nothing to do, the media fire, I will bear it alone. Lu Ting pressed his forehead against her lower abdomen, hot tears ironed her skirt, and his breath was cologne. Remote public relations, fight the headquarters in person. Nuan, trust me once, I will accompany you when you perform in Yunnan. He stood up, carried the piano and people, and rushed through the door of the private jet domineeringly. The roar of the engine tore through the night sky, and the lights of Yunnan fell like stars. The leather seats in the plane were warm, and the flight attendant held the Blue Mountain coffee with trembling hands. Mr. Lu, it's hot. Su Nuan leaned into his arms, the bitter taste of the coffee entered her throat, and her heart melted slightly, but the shadow of depression was still there. Music season, fans are still resisting. At the main venue of the Yunnan Music Festival, stars are pouring down at night, the fragrance of osmanthus is mixed with the wet soil of the plateau, the neon lights on the stage are flashing, the crowds are thick and dark, and the air is as sultry as a furnace. Su Nuan Stradivari came on stage, strummed the strings with her bow, and played Butterfly Lovers for the first time. The audience booed like a wave, "Get out of here, spy bitch." Suddenly, the backstage curtain moved, Lu Ting tore the cuffs of his black suit, strode across the stage, grabbed the microphone, and his voice was hoarse and jerky, "This song, Give Me a Woman." He opened his voice, and the clumsy love song, "Your Melody," floated out intermittently. He was tone-deaf and whispered like a tough man, "Warm, my soul is captured by your piano, and I will never regret it in my life." There was dead silence in the audience, and then the girl screamed and collapsed. "Mr. Lu sings. Go on stage for love, go crazy." The middle-aged fan wiped away tears and trembled, "Emperor's love song, clumsy and sincere. The black material is fake." Thousands of people applauded, the light focused on his iron face and blushed, the assistant knelt down in front of the stage, "The boss is amazing." The hot search reversed, Ting Huang's stupid singing to chase his wife hit the first place. Chu Tian's face was as pale as a ghost during the live broadcast, impossible. Su Nuan burst into tears like rain, as the piano and bows played together, and the strings wrapped around his dumb voice. The climax of the love song shook the sky. The audience stood up and shouted, "Together! Music Goddess plus Emperor Ting, forever!" The whole audience was moved like a tsunami, the air was filled with sweet osmanthus, and Lu Ting held her waist. After a deep kiss, tears rolled on the tip of the tongue, and the audience screamed and screamed, "The hot kiss is the finale, the couple of gods." The aftermath of the climax has not yet dissipated. In the backstage lounge, Su Nuan leaned on the sofa and panted, her stomach was rumbling strangely, morning sickness was faint, and the pregnancy test stick had 2 lines hidden at the bottom of the bag, positive. She touched her belly with her fingertips and bit her lip hesitantly, "Ting, child." Lu Ting's eyes flashed. Under the shadow of crisis, new joy pulsed, and after the storm, a rainbow loomed. In the backstage lounge of the Yunnan Music Festival, the scent of osmanthus filled the air like honey mist, the leather sofa was warm and sunken, Su Nuan's fingertips caressed her lower abdomen, and the 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test stick were faintly hot under the light. She looked up with tearful eyes, and her voice was as soft as the aftertaste of a piano string, "Ting, baby, we have a baby." Lu Ting's iron arms stiffened, his black eyes bursting with joy, and the smell of cologne mixed with sweat hit his nose. He put his big palm on her flat belly, the palm of his hand was as hot as a soldering iron, and his breath was thick and cracked, "Warm, my seed." He lowered his head and kissed her abdomen deeply, his lips and teeth nibbled at the gauze skirt, and the hot tears seeped into the salty fabric. The assistant pushed open the door and walked in, holding hot coffee and documents in his hand. His eyes were as wide as copper bells, and the coffee cup was about to spill, "Mr. Lu. The most popular search topic is, Ting Huang performs stupidly on stage plus the goddess is pregnant." Fans went crazy about the cervical kiss. Chu Tian's arrest order was being executed, and the whole family took it. Su Nuan rushed in from behind, the sweet smell of the perfume exploded, and he screamed and hugged Su Nuan, "Nuan Nuan. The baby is here, the fairy couple has upgraded to expectant parents." Mr. Lu's kiss, the global live broadcast melted. But Lu Ting's iron face sank, and he glanced at the file, his brows filled with murderous aura, "The remaining parties in Chu Tian are not cleared, return to the imperial capital, escorted by music dreams." The private plane cut through the night sky, the engine roared like an animal's breath, and the leather seats in the cabin were filled with warm yellow light. Su Nuan leaned on Lu Ting's shoulder, the coffee was bitter and sweet, and her throat was filled with sweetness. Her heart melted slightly but the shadow lingered, "Ting, is Ting Emperor stable?" Renewal of the concert hall's global live broadcast. His iron arms tightened around her waist, and his voice was as heavy as a hammer, "Stable. Public relations suppresses black matter, Chu Tian IP is locked, and the special police will close the network tonight. But Nuan, you are full of blood, and I will fight for the whole imperial capital. The lights of Yunnan disappeared like stars, and the neon blood of the imperial capital reappeared. The Bentley engine roared into the Tinghuang villa, and the night wind was pungent with roses. The doorman bowed and trembled. Ms. Lu is pregnant, everyone is preparing for the music season. The next morning, the rose garden of the imperial villa was filled with mist, and the petals were blood-red and wet with dew. Su Nuan opened the floor-to-ceiling windows, and the golden rim of the breakfast tray shone, the French ox horn was crispy and steaming, and the Blue Mountain coffee was fragrant. Next to it was a bouquet of blood roses tied with a ribbon, and the ink scrawled on the card, "Warm, children's breakfast, Ting." Her heart rippled, and she touched her abdomen with her fingertips and smiled, but she heard the chef whispering. Mr. Lu started cooking eggs at 5 o'clock, his hands were shaking like a blacksmith. He stayed up all night for his wife's sake. Su Nuan held the juice and narrowed her eyes into crescent moons. Nuan Nuan, look. Mr. Lu chased his wife's crematorium to upgrade. Good morning flower rain. Last night, he knelt down at the airport and kissed on stage. The number of fans increased to over 100 million, and the MV pre-sales were revived. The crematorium was a mixture of sweetness and cruelty for days. Lu Ting delivered flowers at dawn every day, roses piled up in the piano room like a sea of blood, breakfasts took turns, bird's nest porridge slid into the throat, truffle egg tarts were crispy and he brought them personally, coffee stains were stained on the cuffs of his suit, bloodshot eyes were like spider webs, and the smell of cologne hit his nose with exhaustion and sweat. Su Nuan leaned against the piano stand and tried to play Butterfly Lovers. The bow had ivory dragon scales and was slippery. He suddenly broke in, wrapped his iron arms around the body of the instrument, and plucked the strings awkwardly. Nuan, teach me. Father and Son, a lullaby for children. She smiled and pushed him. Ting, you are tone deaf. But he insisted on pulling the bow, and at first the string broke like tears. God! The emperor is learning the piano for his pregnant wife. Lu Ting has made rapid progress, and the calluses on his fingertips are thick with blood. He roars in harmony, and the sound of the piano is harsh but affectionate. Su Nuan's heart melts, and tears flash. Ting, are you sacrificing the business war for me? He locked eyes with her, and said with a sigh, the billion-dollar contract is on hold. Chu Tian's remnant is eliminated first. Su Nuan's best friend assisted, and someone eavesdropped outside the piano room and screamed, Nuan Nuan. Mr. Lu's piano skills are so good that he played all night last night, and his fingers are bloody. Emperor Ting's iron blood has turned into a piano slave, and the glass slag is heartbroken. Su Nuan pushed the door and saw Lu Ting leaning on the piano and panting. His suit was wrinkled like a battle robe, his eye sockets were sunken and haggard like a ghost, beads of sweat rolled down his forehead and hit the piano strings, her heart was twisted like a broken bow, and she threw herself into his arms. Tears hit her chest. Ting, you stayed up all night, dreaming about music for me, where is Emperor Ting? He stroked his back with a big palm, and his hoarse voice broke. Nuan, you have the blood in your belly, the goddess of music, my whole family loves you. Su Nuan wiped her tears and pushed, Nuan Nuan, please reconcile. This man, kneeling at the airport plus singing on the stage plus learning the piano with bloody hands, the emperor's beloved wife is full of flowers. Chu Tian is about to die, sweet peak. However, Chu Tian's new situation is like a poisonous snake lurking. The crystal lamps in the rehearsal hall of the Imperial Concert Hall are bright and dazzling. The strings are humming in the empty space. Su Nuan draws her bow to audition. Her manager Su Nuan's mobile phone is going crazy. The screen of the mobile phone is red and flashes like blood. Nuan Nuan. Chu Tian Yudong, an investor under a pseudonym, spends billions to sponsor the concert, but the condition is, you publicly choose sides and dump Lu Ting, otherwise you will divest yourself and expose the pregnancy scandal. The screenshot of the email is glaring. Chu Tian's profile picture is on the top with a sinister smile. The goddess of music, Hun Yuan, is reborn, and Ting Huang abandons her. son. Su Nuan's fingertips were frozen, the bow fell and hit the ground with a crisp sound, the ivory dragon's scales were dirty and dusty, and her heart was frozen with despair. Is he not dead? The music festival was broadcast globally, billions of dollars were withdrawn, and fans turned against each other in waves. Pot, it's over. Chu Tian made a fake investment and was forced to choose a side. Miss Su can handle it alone. Su Nuan sat down with weak legs, her voice trembling and broken. Nuan, refuse. But the music dream. The protest flag was raised at the entrance of the Imperial City Hall, and the pregnant bitch get out warmed up. Su Nuan bit her lip and stumbled out of the hall. The neon streets were busy with traffic, and the cafe was filled with mist. She sat alone by the window, with the bitterness of the Blue Mountains entering her throat, and her tears hitting the rim of the cup. She was playing a game of inner demons. Choose Chu Tian, the music will continue to be brilliant, and the child will have no father. Loyal Lu Ting, the scandal will expose her, and her dream will be shattered and her life will be ruined. Her fingers were playing with the dragon scales of the piano bow, and it was bone-chilling. Fans passed by and cursed, the goddess has fallen. Chu invested to save the situation, and Ting Huangxian was thrown away. Her throat was choked with sobs, and her mind was at war with heaven and man. Lu Ting's breakfast roses were still fragrant, and the bloody piano bubbles were still hot. But Chu Tian's billion is like a noose, the lights in the concert hall are dim, the withdrawal of global sponsorship is looming, and the desperate situation is like a landslide. At Lu Ting's public relations headquarters, the glass curtain wall overlooks the night view of the imperial capital. The red light on the screen flickers like blood. He smashes the table with his iron fist, wood chips are flying, and the cologne scent is burning. Chu Tian is a thief, fake investment. IP lock. Lawyers, sue for blackmail. The assistant knelt down and trembled. Mr. Lu, during the signing of the billion-dollar European and American contract, Chu negotiation came to the concert hall in person. You. Lu Ting's black eyes boiled with murderous intent. He glanced at the document and the sound of tearing was as loud as breaking bones. Put it aside. I'm going to conquer Nuan's music dream for nothing. He slammed the door and walked out, with the wind roaring in his suit and sleeves tearing, and the Bentley engine roaring straight to the concert hall. On the way, his mind flashed back, Su Nuan's tearful eyes at the airport, the salty kiss on the stage, the blood in his belly. What's the point of sacrificing hundreds of millions? A powerful emperor who dotes on his wife without regrets. In the VIP negotiation room of the concert hall, the metal door burst open. Chu Tian pretended to be an investor in a suit and leather shoes, with a sinister smile to support the audience. Bodyguards surrounded him like wolves. The smell of smoke in the air was pungent and mixed with coffee residue. Miss Su, 1 billion to change sides. I have a sequel to Ting Huang's Black Material, and the pregnancy scandal exploded all over the world. Su Nuan's legs went weak outside the door. Nuan, hold on. Where is Mr. Lu? Suddenly, the door lock cracked and shattered, and Lu Ting broke in. The assistant held the ashes of the contract behind his back, and the bodyguard's eyes widened and his steps were futile. Emperor Ting is here in person. Is the billion on hold? He strode closer to Chu Tian, pinching his tie with his iron palm and clicking the fabric. The thread was broken, and his voice was as cold as a blade. You bitch, investment. I'll spend tens of billions to fully fund the concert. Su Nuan, a string, all mine. Chu Tian's face turned as white as paper, beads of sweat rolled down and hit the table. The bodyguard whispered in fear, it's over, Ting Huang Shura, arrest warrant plus blackmail. Su Nuan stood up in tears and threw herself into Lu Ting's arms. The smell of coffee and salty tears hit her nostrils. Ting, will you give up hundreds of millions, for me? His breath was burning in his ears, and he wrapped his arms around his waist and said domineeringly, Nuan, father of the child, god of music, risk your life. Documents on the negotiating table were incinerated. Chu Tian staggered back, and the assistant's mobile phone live broadcast flashed, hot search. Ting Emperor spent tens of billions to protect his wife. Chu Dog kneels down. Work the staff screamed and worshipped outside the door. The power of the emperor, the love is overwhelming. The music dream is unstoppable. Su Nuan wiped her tears and assisted. Nuan, look. The glass is shattered on the ground. Mr. Lu is so haggard, let's make peace. Lu Ting had Su Nuan on his forehead, holding back his tears. Nuan, never give up. The lake in his heart turned slightly, and the shadow faded a little, but Chu Tian slipped out the door with a sinister smile. The game is not over yet. The dawn was breaking, and the mobile phone was vibrating like thunder. Anonymous black materials exploded, internal emails of Ting Huang Group were leaked, Lu Ting was suspected of commercial espionage, and UN bribery backfired, the evidence chain pointed to the core of the Lu family, and the red light of the stock movement warning flashed. Su Nuan rushed in, her face livid. Mr. Lu. Chu Tian's big move, the company is in crisis. An earthquake in the business world of the imperial capital. Lu Ting's eyes became frosty again, the shadow of crisis suddenly rose, the storm was coming. In the rose garden of Tinghuang Villa in the imperial capital, the moonlight washed the petals like a silver hook, and the dewdrops rolled down and smashed to the ground like teardrops. Su Nuan curled up in Lu Ting's iron arms, and the 2 pink lines of the pregnancy test stick were faintly hot in the palm of her hand. Her fingertips were frozen and trembling, and the phone audio echoed coldly like a ghost. Goddess, kidnapping notice, I will be alone on the set tomorrow, or I will see you in front of the child's grave. The pungent nose of air roses mixed with the wet earth, her heart twisted like a broken bow, and tears hit his chest dumbly. Lu Ting, what should I do about safety? The rest of Chu Tian's party is like a shadow, and the studio is broadcast live all over the world. I'm going alone. Lu Ting's black eyes boiled with murderous intent, and the smell of cologne burned his nostrils. His big palms covered his abdomen as hot as a soldering iron, and his breath he slapped his ears harshly. Nuan, trust me. The black and white are all in action, and the thieves can't touch a hair. The butler knelt down on his knees outside the door, whispering tremblingly, Master Shura is out of the cage. Madam is pregnant, Emperor Ting is fighting for the whole capital. The next day at the Imperial Capital Studio, the neon lights were as dazzling as daggers, the hum of the camera echoed in the empty space. Su Nuan's elegant gauze skirt was walking alone on the piano stage, the Stradivarius violin case was cold and clinging to her waist, and the custom-made Bao's ivory dragon scales were faintly scratching her hands. She forced a smile to the camera, music season renewal, butterfly lover's global gift. Fans screamed like a tidal wave, and the flowers rained down on the table with a clanging sound. Su Nuan's best friend secretly pulled her sleeves. Nuan, the hot search for Tinghuang's 10 billions to protect dreams has exceeded 1 billion reads, and Chu Go knelt down and melted during the live broadcast. But the shadow of Su Nuan's heart is lingering in the lake, and his heart is broken. Her blood was pulsing and warm. Last night, Lu Ting patrolled all night with bloodshot eyes and sunken eyes. She whispered, Nuan, the threat is real. I am alone on the set. Ting asked me to stabilize the situation first. Suddenly, a masked man in black appeared like a ghost. Chloroform pungently hit her face. She covered her mouth and nose with a wet cloth. She struggled and the piano case smashed to the ground. The sound of the sound, the dragon scales of the piano bow rolled away into dust, and the vision was as dark as falling into the abyss. Ting, child. Fans and passers-by stared in horror and screamed, kidnapping live broadcast. The goddess is missing, Chu Tian's remaining party. Su Nuan's legs fell weakly to the ground, and the mobile phone live broadcast collapsed. Nuan. Mr. Lu, come quickly, there is a murder on the set. On the outskirts of an abandoned warehouse, the smell of rust mixed with mold and rot assaulted your nose. The moonlight from the broken window slanted into the sky and dust flew up. Su Nuan's wrists were tied to an iron chair with blood marks. Her gauze skirt was torn and her shoulders were cold. She stared at Chu Tian Yudang with tears in her eyes, and her voice was soft but strong. "Let me go. Emperor Ting takes both black and white. Are you on the run?" Chu Tian appeared with a sinister smile. His suit was wrinkled like a shroud, and the smell of smoke was pungent and mixed with blood. He squeezed her chin with his iron pincers and smiled ferociously. "Goddess, Ting Huang's secrets, Ting Huang's overseas IP list, hand it over, otherwise, the child will live on the set." A live broadcast of a graveside ceremony? With his bodyguards surrounding him, the glare of swords flashed in his eyes. Su Nuan's stomach was twisted in fear, and her fingertips were unable to touch her lower abdomen. "No, innocent flesh and blood, music dreams are ruined. How can I give up the Tingshui accord?" Chu Tian's phone vibrated, and the screen flashed red. The hot search for "pregnant goddess kidnapping live broadcast" exploded. Ting Huang jumped over the wall. The secret was obtained. Su Nuan was resurrected. The roar of the engine outside the warehouse is faint. Su Nuan's heart is as desperate as a mountain collapse. The rose breakfast is still fragrant, the blood is soaked in the strings, and the tens of billions of iron oaths to protect the dream are forever. The glass curtain wall of Ting Huang headquarters, the red light on the screen flashed wildly like blood. Lu Ting smashed the table with his iron fist and saw sawdust flying. The smell of cologne mixed with sweat acid burned the warehouse. His black eyes burst red and killed the fire. The assistant knelt down and trembled. "Mr. Lu. The studio surveillance is locked." The black car rushed to the warehouse. Chu Tian IP finally confirmed that the special police were outflanking it. But the overseas contract. Lu Ting ripped his sleeves and roared like a beast. "Hold it." The gangster brothers mobilized 10 teams. The police rushed to seal the road. "I personally recruited." He slammed the door and drove out with the Bentley engine roaring wildly. On the way, he had flashbacks in his mind. Su Nuan knelt down at the airport with tears in her eyes, a salty kiss on the stage, weeping when the strings of the Bloody Hand ensemble broke. Tears of joy rolled down the 2 lines of the pregnancy stick. "Nuan, the father of the child risked his life," the public relations department employee whispered. Admiring the weak legs, the Ting emperor is iron-blooded. He spent billions and smashed tens of billions, and now he is fighting for his own money. He loves his wife Chu Tian. Su Nuan's phone exploded and screamed, "Mr. Lu." Nuan was attacked alone on the set. Live broadcast tomb threats, secret demands, help. The night wind roared in the abandoned warehouse, and the iron door rustled. Lu Ting, dressed in black, sneaked in like a ghost. The green light of his night vision goggles reflected his murderous intent. His iron arm swung the knife and it was cold. The first man's throat bone cracked and he fell to the ground with a pool of blood splattering on his boots. The fishy heat hit his nostrils. The bodyguard's eyes were as round as a copper bell, and his swords were dancing wildly but his steps were empty. "Emperor Ting is here. The rumors of Shura are true, brother, surround me." Lu Ting's skull cracked when he hit it with his iron fist, and his nosebleed sprayed like mist. The second man's legs were broken and he rolled to the ground, wailing ear-piercingly. He roared, his breath burning in the air, "Dog, if you touch the warmth, you will die." The wall dinged, and the men in the warehouse whispered in fear, "It's over." Emperor Ting is invincible in hand-to-hand combat, one punch breaks the bones. "Master Chu, run." Chu Tian's face turned as white as paper, and sweat rolled down to the ground. He staggered and pulled Su Nuan's iron chair as a shield, with a sinister smile and trembling, "Lu Ting. Secrets are exchanged for life, otherwise the pregnant woman will die first." Su Nuan struggled with tears, and the rope was strangled with blood on the ground. "Ting, let's go, child." Lu Ting's iron tower was approaching. The moonlight washed his outline like a demon. The smell of cologne was tangy to his nose. He jumped up with a big stride, his iron legs swept away the 2 bodyguards and hit the wall with flesh and mud splashing on them. The sound of cracking bones was deafening. Chu Tian pulled out the gun and trembled like a sieve, the bullets licked his ears and tongues licked his face. He dodged the iron palm, pinched his throat and cracked his windpipe. The gun fell out of his hand and rolled into ashes. Chu Tian knelt down and coughed up blood, his voice hoarse and begging for mercy. Ting Emperor, forgive me. Heng Yuan is dead. The special police outside Su Nuan broke down the door, the lights were dazzling, and the siren beasts roared and surrounded them. Chu Tian, blackmail, kidnapping, arrest. The police stared wide and whispered admiringly, Ting Emperor fights 10 people alone, the black and white emperor, ruins the Shura field. Su Nuan broke the rope and threw herself into her arms, tears hitting her chest, coffee and scented sandwich hitting her nose with blood. Ting, you come in person, fight your subordinates in a bloody battle, and don't care about them. The dust from the ruins was flying, the rusty blood mixed with the cold moonlight. Lu Ting's iron arms were tightly wrapped around her waist, his breath was thick and hot, and his big palms covered her abdomen with pulsing warmth. Nuan, my seed, never let go. Musical dream, father of a child, all love. He lowered his head and kissed deeply, his lips and teeth were entangled with salty soul, and tears rolled down to the ground. She kissed back fiercely, biting the soft tissue with her tongue. Ting, pregnancy and joy are 2 lines. You swear on your blood, escorted by tens of billions, save Shura now, heartbroken. Su Nuan wiped her eyes and screamed, Nuan Nuan. Look at the shattered glass, Mr. Lu kicks Chu Dog away in a hand-to-hand fight, the emperor's wife is at her peak. The police are all over, the crisis is over, sweetness is blowing. Blood dragging the shackles, Chu Tian died with a ferocious smile, game. But the iron door was locked tightly, the crisis disappeared, and the fans' live broadcast barrage skyrocketed. Hero Ting Huang saved the beauty. The pregnant goddess gave a tearful kiss, and the MV god upgraded. Outside the warehouse, the helicopter blades swirled into dust, the Bentley engine roared into the rose garden, and the night wind rose pungent nose with blood and rust. Su Nuan leaned on Lu Ting's shoulder, her fingertips touching her belly with tears shining. Ting, black and white resources fought together, sacrifice for me. He put his forehead against hers, his dark eyes as deep as the abyss. Nuan, the child's lullaby is not finished, the father and son are playing together, and the blood is hot. The butler bowed and his legs softened, Master Shenwei. The hot search for Ting Huang kicks Chu Tian away exceeded 2 billion, and the whole emperor knelt down. Su Nuan's mobile phone was buzzing with excitement. Nuan Nuan, the concert hall has been extended with more money, fans are begging for a wedding. Mr. Lu, please propose quickly, my godparents. Lu Ting knelt down on one knee, and the moonlight bathed him. She took out the diamond ring and shone like a star, and her voice was deep and hoarse. Nuan, marry me. Emperor Ting will protect you forever, the goddess of music, a family of flesh and blood. She raised her eyes with tears, but gently pushed the ring, her fingertips were frozen and her heart was slightly trembling. Ting, wait. The music season has ended perfectly, and the child is 3 months old, so I can do it. Otherwise, my dream will be shattered and regretted for the rest of my life. His iron arms stiffened, and his black eyes were red. The red joyful fire aches, the smell of cologne and roses hit the nose, the night wind whistles and the rain of rose petals hits the shoulders. Nuan. I obey. But, in the music palace, I will smash 100 billion. Su Nuan screamed with her eyes wide open, Nuan's conditions are cruel. Mr. Lu kneels down and waits, the crematorium continues to burn. The shadow of the heart lake is gone, the sweet hook is hanging in the air, the neon blood of the imperial capital is boiling, and a new situation is undercurrent. In the rose garden of Tinghuang Villa in the imperial capital, the moonlight scattered the petals like blood and tears, and the night wind stirred up the pungent nose of the roses mixed with rust and blood. Su Nuan's fingertips caressed her lower abdomen, and the tears reflected the stars of the diamond ring. Her heart fluttered and she pushed away Lu Ting's iron palm. Her voice was soft but firm. Ting, wait until the music season is perfect, and the child will be stable in March. Otherwise, the dream will be broken and regretted forever. Lu Ting's black eyes were red with joy, and the smell of cologne burned his nose. The iron arms stiffened and tightened, and he breathed loudly and slapped his ears. Nuan Nuan, I obey. But Emperor Ting swears that he will smash the palace with hundreds of billions, and protect the dream with his bloody hands. The butler knelt with weak legs and whispered and trembled, Master Shura is waiting on his knees, Madam's pregnancy is postponed, and the crematorium is burning through the imperial capital. Su Nuan's eyes widened and she screamed and hugged her, Nuan Nuan is sad. Mr. Lu kneels on one knee to moonlight, diamond rings and a galaxy, fans kneel down to beg for the wedding MV, and the hot search for the 2 billion bombs still explodes. The next morning at the Tinghuang Private Medical Center, disinfectant water was pungent and scented with baby powder. The buzz of the B ultrasound machine echoed like a heartbeat. Su Nuan lay on her belly in a gauze skirt and the machine was cold. Her fingertips were frozen and she held Lu Ting's big hand. The fetal heartbeat on the black and white screen was beating like a drum. Ting, the doctor said the fetus is stable, but the pressure is high, the music season is high, just in case. The doctor's sweat rolled down his mask, and his voice trembled as he whispered to the assistant, the bloody battle in the waste warehouse last night, the emperor's doting on his wife. The wife is pregnant, the world's most popular hero parents. Lu Ting leaned over and covered his abdomen with his big hands. Hot as a brand, Nuan, the doctor's bill, I'm blocking the road in black and white, music dream decompression. He turned his eyes to kill the frost, the assistant's legs were soft and knelt down to report, Mr. Lu, Chu Tian is grinning ferociously in prison, the remaining 3 gangsters have escaped, the studio surveillance camera flashes black shadows, and the threatening audio is sent again, pregnant goddess fetal blood, sacrifice. Su Nuan's heart was broken, and the screen burst into tears, here you go again, the child is innocent. Lu Ting's black eyes burst into red fire, and his cologne smell burned the warehouse, and he smashed the glass of the table with his iron fist, cracking the spider web, I will kill you personally, all overseas IPs will be blocked, Hunyuan will be wiped out. In the Starbucks cafe in the imperial capital, the afternoon sun is dazzling and dappled on the floor. The coffee beans are grinding and grinding, and the milk foam is smooth and fragrant. Su Nuan leans against the window screen and her skirt is flowing. She touches the traces of the dragon scales of the piano bow with her fingertips. She whispers, Ting, we met here for the first time. The melody of the concert hit my heart. You stirred up a cup of black coffee. Lu Ting wrapped his arms around his waist, and the cologne mixed with coffee hit his nose. He lowered his head and pecked his cheek and breathed hotly, warm, let's review the sketches of Emperor Ting's wedding, which I drew myself, the Rose Arch, the Stradivarius Ensemble, and the Children's Lullaby. Surrounded. The waiter crossed his legs and trembled, whispering to the fans, Ting Huang is dating in a low-key manner, with 2 billion hot searches, the emperor's beloved wife painted wedding photos. These pre-sales exceeded 500 million. Su Nuan raised her eyes with tears, and the corners of her lips melted, Ting, pay attention to the details of the wedding, but Yu Dang's shadow is to stabilize the pregnancy before the concert. He placed his big palm on his abdomen and kissed her deeply, the bitterness of the coffee was entangled in his soul, believe me, the dog's head will fall to the ground. In the rehearsal room of the Imperial Concert Hall, the buzzing of the strings echoed like ripples in the heart of the lake, and the glare of the spotlight washed the piano stage. Su Nuan's Stradivarius violin bowed and bowed, and the waves of sound hit her angina pectoris. Her gauze skirt rotated and beads of sweat rolled down her cheeks, Ting, ensemble. The strings in his bloody hands are broken, and the dream of father and son is unfinished. Lu Ting's iron fingers plucked the strings, which were raw but strong, and the smell of cologne and rosin hit his nose. His dark eyes locked eyes with affection, Nuan, I studied all night long, and my fingertips were soaked in blood for you. The sound of the piano was intertwined with romance, and the luthier stared at the round bells. Whispering in a trembling voice, the Emperor Ting plays it himself. Emperor Shang's bloody hands advanced quickly, Shura from the waste warehouse turned into a piano fairy. Madam is pregnant, the ensemble MV is a hit all over the world. Su Nuan's best friend secretly pulled her sleeves with joy, her mobile phone vibrated. Nuan, hot search for ensemble of the Emperor Ting's bloody hands over 3 billion. I'll cover the whole baby room, with pink and blue cradle, piano-shaped lamps, and rose wallpaper, to help my parents get married quickly. Su Nuan looked back with tears in her eyes, and her hands were hot with the bow and dragon scales. Nuan, Ting is attentive. My child is in March, and the music season is perfect. In the underground monitoring room of Ting Huang's headquarters, the red light on the screen flashed wildly like blood. The assistant knelt down and sweated like rain. Mr. Lu. 3 gangsters from Chu Tianyu's gang have locked up, robbed the treasury and planned to blow up the concert hall. The pregnancy threat audio is broadcast globally. Ting Huang seed, blood sacrifice for Liangzhu. Lu Ting smashed the screen with his iron fist and sparks flew. His nose was burned with cologne and electric coke. His black eyes boiled with murderous intent and roared, position. The 10 gangs of the underworld. The warehouse is closed, the special police are flying up to the Falcon, I'm going to fight for you. The public relations staff whispered in admiration. Ting Huang killed 10 people in the abandoned warehouse, Chu Go knelt down, and the rest are invincible. The Bentley engine roared out of the neon lights, and on the way, his mind flashed, Su Nuan's tears in the abandoned warehouse, the fetal heartbeat during the prenatal checkup, the deep kiss of coffee, and the romance of the piano. Nuan, father of the child, destroy the dog and protect the family. The abandoned treasury in the imperial capital is in a warehouse on the outskirts, smelling of rust and mildew. The moonlight shines through the broken window and the dust flies like ghosts. The 3 gangsters' swords are flashing and the red light of the explosive box is ticking. Chu Tian's prison video shows a sinister smile. Brother, blow up the concert hall, pregnant women's fetal blood live broadcast, Emperor Ting is kneeling. Beads of sweat rolled down the gangster's armor and hit the ground. Trembling, young Master Chu, Emperor Ting will take both sides. I'll kick you out of the warehouse and make you a bloody mess. Are we going to die? Suddenly the iron door beast roared and exploded. Lu Ting sneaked in like Shura in black. The smell of cologne hit his face with blood. The green light of his night vision goggles reflected the killing frost. The gangster's throat bone cracked when he swung the sword with his iron arm, and blood spattered on his boots. The hot and pungent smell was pungent. The second gangster screamed, drew his gun, and licked his face with fire. The bullet grazed his shoulder and the gunpowder choked him. He dodged with his iron leg and broke his leg bone with a crackling sound. He screamed, Shura is here again. A broken leg. Young Master Chu's prophecy was wrong. It's over. The third gangster shook his hands with the explosive fuse. Lu Ting smashed his skull with his iron fist and his nosebleed sprayed like rain. Chu Tian's video screen turned as pale as a corpse, and sweat hit the keyboard. His evil smile broke into a crack of despair. Emperor Ting. Heng Yuan died, I regret it. Blackmailing pregnant women, asking for secrets, dirty photos, all wrong. Spare me. Lu Ting's black eyes were frosty, and he kicked the screen with a domineering kick and glass shards flew like a shower of stars. The scene in Chu Tian's prison was intermittent with blood and tears. Brother. I regret my ambition, Emperor Ting. Emperor, the wall of love, the game is over. The police broke through the door with dazzling sirens, and the policemen were all covered in blood. They stared in admiration and whispered, Ting Huang single-handedly defeated the 3 gangsters, and the rest of the gang was wiped out. The ruined warehouse continues, the black and white emperor saluted, and the hot search 4 billion knelt down. Outside the warehouse, Su Nuan's phone exploded and screamed, Mr. At night in the villa, blood-bathed in the rose garden under the moonlight, Su Nuan relied on Lu Ting's pregnancy test stick to relive her 2 happy marriages. Her mobile phone vibrated anonymously. Chu Tian Yudang's voice was cold and cold, Goddess, kidnapping notice, I will walk alone on the set tomorrow, or I will see you at the child's grave. Her fingertips were frozen to death, and she was in fear of angina. Ting, he threatened safety. Sweet daily routine, smiling face during prenatal checkup and B ultrasound, interviewing a black coffee for a deep kiss in a coffee shop, concert hall ensemble butterfly lovers global preheated MV exceeding 1 billion, Su Nuan's baby room with pink and blue lights flashing on the piano-shaped cradle rose wall, Lu Ting's wedding picture drawn by himself and the promise of a galaxy ring. The neon blood of the imperial capital is boiling, the crisis is ashes, and a new situation is undercurrent. In the Ting royal family dining room, candlelight sways and crystal lamps jingle, Mr. Lu's iron staff hits the ground with a loud bang, the elders in suits are straight and the smell of smoke is pungent, they all glare at Lu Ting with black eyes. Tinger, marrying a music girl. You are not worthy of the right family. Marry the daughter of the Zhao family quickly, otherwise the family property will be cut off. Su Nuan in a gauze skirt standing frozen with tears in his eyes, his heart twisted like a bow. Ting, family pressure, music dreams of a child. Lu Ting clenched his fists, cologne-flavored and angry. Master, Nuan is my life. Marriage? Bullshit. The elders whispered in fear and weak legs. Ting emperor rebels against heaven. He dotes on his wife Shura, and the family explodes. The dinner was awkward like thunder, the hook was hanging, and the imperial capital was in trouble again. In the imperial family dining room of the imperial capital, the candlelight swayed and elongated figures looked like ghosts. The crystal lamps clinked and jingled, mixed with the sour taste of red wine. Mr. Lu's iron staff hit the floor again with a loud bang, shaking the table and the silverware trembled. His wrinkled black eyes were fixed on Su Nuan's skirt. Shadow, music girl. She doesn't belong to the right family. Tinger, the daughter of the Zhao family is worthy of the marriage. Otherwise, the family fortune will be cut off. Get out of Ting Huang. The elders in suits with neat suits and the smell of tobacco pungent, echoed in unison and whispered, yes. Violin. What's the point of being a family? The burden of pregnancy and the drama of doting on one's wife have gone too far. How can the family's face be saved? Su Nuan's fingertips were frozen and she pinched the hem of her skirt. Her tearful eyes reflected the shattered light of the candle, and she whispered softly and pushed Lu Ting's iron arm. Ting, am I worthy? Come on, music dreams of children, don't cut off the family property for me. The air in the hall was as solid as ice, and the servants' legs were shaking, whispering in fear, Madam, she has low self-esteem. Shura, the doting wife of Emperor Ting, meets the iron wall of the family. The dinner is going to explode, and the wealthy family in the imperial capital is earthquake. Lu Ting's black eyes exploded with red fire, and the smell of cologne burned into the hall. The sound of his iron fists crackled loudly, and the sound was like thunder. He smashed the table and the red wine spilled like blood. Master, warmth is my lifeblood. Marriage is bullshit, the daughter of the Zhao family. It's not uncommon to have $1,000 billion smashed to the ground. He wrapped his iron arm around Su Nuan's waist, placed his big palm on her belly and felt her warm pulse, and breathed heavily on her ears. Nuan, don't retreat, the whole clan will be summoned tomorrow to prove your talent. They stared at the copper bells, beads of sweat rolled down their cheeks and hit the tiles on the floor, whispering and trembling, Tinger rebels against the sky. The waste warehouse and the treasury are destroying Shura, and now the music guardian suppresses the father, the family property is cut off. Emperor Ting, both black and white, who dares? Su warm tears hit his chest, the lingering fragrance of coffee was mixed with salty blood, and his heart was slightly rippled. Ting, the pressure is great, the fetus is stable for the music season. He lowered his head and kissed his lips and teeth deeply, entangled with the sweet and sour red wine, and said, believe me, even if the dog's head falls, the whole family will kneel down. The next day, in the golden-roofed conference hall of Ting Huang's headquarters, the sunlight shone brightly on the crystal dome, refracting colors like a galaxy. The air conditioner hummed with cold air and the grinding coffee beans were bitter. The family elders gathered on both sides of the long table. Their suits were straight and their legs were soft, and they sat down to whisper. Mr. Lu leaned his iron staff on the ground and panted, frowning and staring at the door. "Tinger is arrogant, how can a music girl be so good?" The door beast roared and pushed open. Lu Ting stepped in black from the iron tower, his nose was filled with cologne. Breaking 6 billion. Fans kneel down to beg the music goddess to marry the emperor. The projection screen blared loudly, and the Stradivarius Ensemble's Butterfly Lovers MV global warm-up screen exploded, the strings buzzed and surged into the heart, Su Nuan's bow bowed and the music of Butterfly Lovers shook the soul, Lu Ting's bloody hands plucked the strings, and the romance burned like a blood oath. Scroll of audience data, 1 billion clicks, 5 billion hot searches, 100 billion contract renewal to hit the palace. Lu Ting pointed at the screen and locked eyes with the audience, his dark eyes and red fire swept over the old man. "Nuan, his talent is shocking to the world. Stradivarius dreams, the music season is full of tears, MV pre-sales exceeded 2 billion, this is Ting Huang's contribution." The screen switched to the waste warehouse vault monitoring replay, the iron door exploded, the gangster's throat bone clicked, the leg bone shattered, the glass shards kicked off the screen and the flying stars rained, and Chu Tian prison burst into tears of regret and, "The game is over." Su Nuan lowered her eyes with tears, and touched her belly with her fingertips as the drum beats echoed in the recording. She resolves the crisis, protects her dream during pregnancy, the popular search for hero parents is worth 5 billion, and all the Ting Emperor scandals are reversed. The elders' eyes widened, and they smashed the table with sweat pouring down. Their legs were soft and the sliding chairs were whispering and trembling, "Goddess of music. The MV has exceeded 100 million. Xian, destroy the remaining treasury and destroy the remaining party. Madame Yuhui contributes to the empire, what a joke. The master's face is pale, the power of Emperor Ting is overwhelming." Mr. Lu shakes off his iron staff and gasps like a bellows, "Tinger, the daughter of my old comrade Su is worthy of the marriage is exempted, and the family fortune is increased." Su Nuan's heart tightened and she looked up at the Lu Ting tower with tears in her eyes. Su Nuan hugged her and screamed and pulled her sleeves, Nuan wins. The family kneels, the baby room's pink and blue lights flash on the rose wall of a piano-shaped cradle, and they get married in plain sight. Lu Ting's iron arms tightened, with his big palms covering his abdomen, hot and pulsing, he leaned over, his breath burning his cheeks, and he growled an affectionate monologue, "Warm, the melody from the concert hit my heart and I fell in love at first sight." Tears burst into tears in the abandoned warehouse, fetal heartbeat during prenatal checkup, bitter coffee kiss, and bloody ensemble hand. "Xian, you are my life, my father will always swear. I have the power of the emperor, and I will love you invincibly." The corners of Su Nuan's lips melted with honey, and tears hit his shoulders. His cologne was hot. "Ting, the knot in my heart is resolved, my child is in March, wedding picture Rose Arch Galaxy," responded. The elders in the audience clapped in admiration, and the servants were trembling with coffee, the goddess of music burst into tears, and the wealthy people of the imperial capital worshipped her, and the hot search was 7 billion. After the aftermath of the meeting, the roar of Ting Huang's private plane pierced the sky, the neon lights of the imperial capital shrank to a pinpoint, the blue sky and white waves beat on the beach like drums, the salty and wet sea breeze filled the nostrils with the fragrance of coconut, and the wedding photos were previewed under the rose arch of the private beach tent and the stars were twinkling. Su Nuan's gauze skirt was flowing elegantly and she was leaning on the lounge chair. Her fingertips were touching her abdomen and the baby was moving softly. She whispered, "Ting, this place is healing, the family approves and the music dream is stable." Lu Ting's iron arms were wrapped around his waist, cologne mixed with sea salt was used to burn his nose. The piano is advanced, the ensemble of Butterfly Lovers continues the MV, and the child's father plays the lullaby. The waves splashing on the feet are cold and biting, the sunset is blood red and the sea is like rose tears, his iron fingers plucking the open strings and humming Butterfly Lovers' low fire. Su Nuan's tearful eyes are locked, and the phantom sounds of Stradivarius are intertwined with the romantic and soul-burning music. The screams of seagulls echoed, and the servant served black coffee with milk and silky fragrance, and whispered with soft legs, Ting Huang's seaside ensemble. The pregnant wife is affectionate, and the hot-searched 8 billion gods vacation MV is warming up. At night, the stars poured into the tent, candlelight swayed and reflected the stars of the diamond ring. Lu Ting kneeled down on one knee and proposed in the rose garden under the moonlight. The smell of cologne and the sea breeze burned his nose. He firmly grasped her and kissed her deeply with his cold fingers. Nuan, the music season is perfect. The child is 3 months old. Are you getting married today? Su Nuan burst into tears on her chest. The bitterness of the coffee entered her soul, and her lips and teeth were entangled with honey. Ting, yes. Ting Huang's lifeblood, Yongxin. Su Nuan's video streamed into the audience and screamed, Nuan is getting married. The baby's room is fully completed, the pink and blue piano lights and rose walls are shining, fans all over the world are kneeling and begging for live broadcast. The waves are beating on the shore, and the sand is warm. The sea breeze rolls up the skirt and reveals the slight swelling, and the sweet sugar overflows the world. The countdown to the music season is on, and the neon blood of the imperial capital is boiling to warm up the $100 billion palace. The global MV contract renewal has exceeded 3 billion, and the popular search for Ting Huang's seaside marriage music goddess is 9 billion. Ting Huang's status is at its peak, and the black and white worshipping family is increasing its wealth. On the eve of the wedding, in the rose garden, the moonlight sprinkled petals like blood and tears. Su Nuan touched her belly with her fingertips and tried on the wedding dress while twirling her gauze skirt. She whispered excitedly, Ting, the arch-galaxy ring promises that tomorrow will be perfect. The butler's legs softened and he bowed to the tray with a mysterious gift box. The ribbon was wrapped with roses and pungent, Madam, Mr. Lu personally drew the wedding picture as a gift. It's an early surprise. The video crystal ball in prison showed intermittent blood and tears as Chu Tian laughed and burst into tears, music girl. Emperor Ting's blood sacrifice was wrong, spare your life. Su Nuan's heart was broken, her tears smashed against the crystal with a sharp sound, she stood stiffly and opened the door with angry eyes, Ting, what kind of ghost ceremony is this? The lingering hatred of Chu Tian before marriage? The pungent nose of the rose is stained with rust and blood, the petals are fluttering in the night wind, Ting's black eyes are red and aching with joy, the hook is hanging in the sky, and the capital is stormy again. The night wind in the rose garden was like a knife, rolling up the petals and fluttering, pungent, bloody and rusty. Su Nuan's gauze skirt trembled and stood frozen at the door. The broken crystal ball reflected the moonlight and shattered light pricked the blood on her fingertips. Her angry eyes were crimson and covered with Lu Ting's black shadow. Her voice broke like a broken bowstring, Ting, what the hell is this? Chu Tian smiled ferociously, spare your life, shadow before marriage, do you want me to marry with fear? Music season the children are all ruined. Tears hit the floor and splashed on the tiles, and the fetus in her belly beat like a war drum. She stepped back and hit the rose thorns with her iron arms. The butler's knees were weak and the tray rolled and the ribbons were scattered. The servants' eyes were wide and sweaty, and they were whispering and trembling, Madam, the crystal ball is regretful. The wedding ceremony of President Ting turned into a sure knife, and the wedding night of the imperial capital turned to hell. In the black-clad hall of the Lu Ting Tower, the smell of cologne burns the air like fire. His black eyes are filled with red fire and burst with dull pain. His hook is hanging in the air and his fist is clattering through the rose arch. Nuan, listen to me. He stepped forward with a big palm. He laid on her trembling shoulders, breathed heavily and burned her ears, and growled, the entire treasury of Chu Tian's remnants of the party was wiped out, and I personally recorded this ball in prison. I bribed the jailer with hundreds of billions to force him to admit defeat with a grim smile. It's not a shadow, it's a trophy. He planted blood as a sacrifice for his mistake. At the end of the game, you and I will always win. Su Nuan pushed him with tears in her eyes, the lingering fragrance of coffee mixed with salty blood. her heart pounding and her heart breaking, and she screamed, "Proof?" The pregnant wife is heartbroken. The MV of the family kneeling meeting exceeded 30. Hundreds of millions, are all ruined by Chu Tian's hideous smile. The butler climbed up and kowtowed, and the servants scurried to the corner and said tremblingly, "Mr. Ting will go to jail to regret it, and Chu Tian's blood and tears will spare his life." "Madam, the wedding is a mess." Su Nuan's video streamed into her phone and she screamed. The rose garden on the phone was dancing wildly. She stared at the copper bell coffee milk foam and spilled the keyboard, "Nuan Nuan. The crystal ball is not a shadow." Chu Tian was on his knees begging for video in prison. "I checked it yesterday." Brother Ting smashed the prison pass with hundreds of billions, forcing him to laugh at his roots. The remaining hatred is gone, and the quick wedding music season is a double joy. Su Nuan touched her belly with her fingertips and the fetal heartbeat was weak. She lowered her head and whispered, "Ting, the fear is rekindled, the baby is stable in March." Lu Ting iron arms wrapped around his waist to protect him, his big palms covered his abdomen with hot pulses in sync, sea salt cologne was mixed with tears and salty to burn his nose. He leaned over and kissed his lips and teeth deeply, entangled with honey and melted his soul. "Believe me," Chu Tian's head fell to the ground to prove it. "Strati during the music season wary ensemble, I advance to the level of bloody hand strings, and butterfly lovers will die." The butler's servants clapped with admiration, "The Emperor Ting has solved the crisis." The pregnant wife sheds tears and crystal trophies, the imperial capital is shady, and the hot search is tens of billions. The next morning, the imperial capital music hall was preheating and boiling. Hundreds of billions of neon blood lights were dazzling. The air conditioner hummed with cold wind and the bitter taste of coffee beans hit the nostrils. Fans from all over the world screamed outside the door like ocean waves. Hot searches exceeded 10 billion for, countdown to the wedding of the music goddess in the crystal ball. Su Nuan walked on the red carpet in a gauze dress, her fingertips stroking the Stradivarius strings and her heart was buzzing. Her tearful eyes drooped and her belly was slightly exposed. Su Nuan hugged and pulled her sleeves and trembled with excitement. "Nuan Nuan, the MV contract has been renewed with 4 billion. Congratulations from Mr. Lu of the family." Baby room fans, the blue piano lights flashed and the whole capital worshipped. Lu Ting's iron tower was in black, and the cologne burned the air. He firmly grasped her and clasped his fingers deeply. "Nuan, the misunderstanding was eliminated last night, and today's ensemble of butterfly lovers shocked the world. I learned the piano all night long," and the child's father swore. The crystal on the dome of the palace reflects the stars, and the elders in the auditorium sit in suits with straight legs and are whispering. Mr. Lu leans on the iron stick and gasps, frowning, "Music season." Tinger's pregnant wife ensemble, Chu Tian prisons regret crystal presses on the top. Ting Emperor's contribution, the family wealth is doubled. The shadows of the remaining gang members in Chu Tian prison rushed backstage, and the mobile phone live broadcast intermittent with sinister smiles. The marriage of the musician girl was ruined, and the regrets are a blood sacrifice. But Lu Ting's black eyes glanced at him, and he pointed at the hidden camera and shouted, "Get out. Black and white take all, the jailer has been eliminated." The security guard threw the remaining party members with weak legs, and the throat bones cracked and glass shards rained down. The audience's eyes widened and sweat rolled down their cheeks. Shura protects his wife. Destroy the enemy in front of the palace, hot search explosion. The lights suddenly went out and darkness engulfed the stage. The spotlight hit the stage. The Stradivarius golden light flashed. Su Nuan pulled the bow and Liang Zhu's music surged into the soul. The strings buzzed like the beating of the heart. Lu Ting's bloody hands on the iron tower plucked the strings and turned to fire. Cologne and incense burned his nose. Romantic blood oaths smashed the whole audience. The audience burst into tears and screamed, "The Xian Ensemble Emperor. The music goddess Ting Huang Shuabu has advanced. The Butterfly Lovers MV live broadcast has exceeded 5 billion. The elders stared at the copper bells and sweated like rain, and their legs were soft on the sliding chairs. Mr. Lu shook off his iron staff and gasped. She admired, the talent shocks the world. The daughter of an old comrade is a perfect match, Emperor Ting will always be prosperous. Su Nuan's audience video fans all over the world screamed and screamed, Brother Nuan Ting is a fairy. Hot searches 12 billion, live broadcast of pink and blue rose wall flash in the baby room. Returning from the rose garden at night, with the pungent roses pinching the blood and rust, Su Nuan burst into tears and smashed her chest with the scent of coffee and salty blood. Ting, kill me again, are all the remaining prison shadows wiped out? Lu Ting's iron arms were tightly wrapped, and his big palms covered his belly to warm the fetus. Su Nuan wiped her tears and rushed in. Nuan, look at the shards of surveillance glass. Mr. Lu pinches his throat and kicks the screen, the live broadcast of Chu prison melts. The number of fans is soaring, the baby room is exposed, the fairy family is fried. The butler bowed and his legs were weak, Master Shura is suppressed in black and white, and the hot search for, Ting Huang destroys the remaining party, has exceeded 5 billion. On the night of the wedding, the starry river of lights poured out from the rose arch of Ting Huang Castle in the imperial capital, the salty sea breeze was filled with the fragrance of coconut, and the blue sky and white waves on the private beach continued to beat the wedding vows. The global live broadcast hot search exceeded 20 billion for music goddess Ting Huang's wedding of the century. Su Nuan's snow-white wedding dress twirled and slightly bulged, reflecting the shattered light of the candlelight. She touched the starry glow of the diamond ring with her fingertips. She burst into tears with excitement. Ting, the music season is perfect, my father will always swear. Falling in love at first sight, prenatal checkup, deep kiss with coffee, ensemble of blood strings, honey on the beach, family kneeling and regret, marry me, love you invincible. Su Nuan burst into tears, her lips and teeth entangled with honey, yes. Ting Huang's heart and soul, the 3-month palace of children in the music season. At the climax of the music season, the sound wave burned the soul. Su Nuan's tearful eyes locked with Lu Ting's iron eyes, her fingertips touched her abdomen and the fetal movement synchronized the chords. She whispered softly, Ting, the fear is gone, and the dream of music is open. Lu Ting breathed heavily and pecked his cheek and shouted, Nuan, my lifeblood. The audience clapped and thundered, and the servant served black coffee with milk and soaked his legs softly. The soul of the ensemble is broken. The imperial capital kneels down, the wedding arch galaxy warms up. Coconut groves danced on the honeymoon private island, candlelight swayed in the tent under the stars and roses pungent. Su Nuan leaned on the recliner and stroked her belly with her fingertips and the baby moved softly. Stradivarius leaned on the bed and hummed the aftertaste. She whispered, Ting, this is paradise. The music dream continues, the child's father is learning piano lullabies. Lu Ting's iron arms circle his waist and his big palms cover his abdomen, his pulse is hot, and the cologne water mixes with the sea. Salt burned his nose, he breathed thickly and hummed the deep fire of butterfly lovers, and plucked the open strings with his fingertips and the blood bubbled to life. Warm, honeymoon ensemble. Chu Tian prison is burnt down, the remaining parties are ashes, and the new empire is open to you and my children. The waves hit the shore, my heart beat wildly, the sunset dyed the sea red with rose tears, the two hugged each other in the warm sand, and the hem of their skirt curled up to reveal their belly, and the sweet sugar overflowed and the world was still. The priest's voice trembled as he swore an oath, while seagulls shrieked and the waves splashed with cold feet. Su Nuan threw herself into a hug and screamed, tugging at the gauze, Nuan is pregnant soon. The rose walls of the baby room's piano-shaped cradle are all flashing, and fans are kneeling around the world live broadcast. Mr. Lu held an iron staff. Shaw gasped and burst into tears. My grandson's daughter-in-law is a music fairy, and her family fortune has been increased by 100 billion. The elder guests' eyes widened and their legs were weak, they clapped and buzzed, the wedding of the century, Shura dotes on his wife. The capital of black and white worship is shocked, and the negative information has been reversed and the hot search hits 30 billion. 3 months later, in the VIP delivery room of Imperial City Hospital, the fetal heartbeat on the B ultrasound screen was like a butterfly lover's frenzy. The doctor's legs were weak and he bowed, "Madam, the fetus is stable, the twins are healthy, and they have the blood of musicians." Su Nuan's tearful eyes flashed to the Lu Ting tower, and the cologne clip was used to disinfect the water. Nose, he held his firm hand and kissed deeply. "Nuan, Daddy, wait for the lullaby." Su Nuan burst into ecstasy and screamed through the video, Nuan's twin treasures. Hot search for 50 billion, Ting Huang Music Air, the baby room expansion pink and blue double piano lights rose wall global live broadcast. Outside the delivery room, the legs of the elderly guests were weak and they were whispering in admiration. Mr. Lu shook his iron rod and shed tears of joy. "My grandson is the Emperor of Music, and the Emperor of Ting will live forever." But a shadow in the corridor flashed and a man in black robes smiled ferociously and kept talking on his cell phone. "Lu Ting, a new game, blood-seeding sacrifice continues." Lu Ting's black eyes glanced at him, and he pointed at the hidden surveillance camera and shouted, "Get out! The new enemy of black and white, I will destroy you." The sea breeze has a premonition that the storm will surge again, the neon blood of the imperial capital is boiling, the music melody will never die, and the legend of Emperor Ting's doting wife begins. The child's cry resounded throughout the delivery room like the first melody of a new string. Su Nuan hugged her two babies and her tears melted into honey. Lu Ting's iron arms protected the three souls and they kissed her deeply and vowed forever, "Nuan, our empire, music and love are invincible." The city's hot search hit hundreds of billions, fans begged for a sequel, and the wealthy families of the imperial capital will always kneel.